Yo guys! It's your friend here, bringing you another awesome Naruto What If tale. We are going to see what if Naruto joined Justice League for Wonder Woman soon a day jealousy. This is part 1 and if you want more then please leave a like, share and subscribe. Also don't forget to drink water of glass. Let's get in the video. Wonder Woman tried to keep her eyes open as Batman went on about something and everything. Normally she'd be more attentive, but after a long day of dealing with the president and Cheetah she just wanted to go home, have a bowl or 2 or 6 of ice cream and get a good night's rest. But crime never slept, and neither should the crime fighters, at least according to Batman, who had called all the League's founding members to the Watchtower at 11:30 in the night. She was sure what he was telling them could wait until the next day, but the man's sense of urgency wouldn't let him the same. Bara, the backrest of her seat felt so soft and comfortable now, even the air conditioning made her feel more tired. If it wasn't for the droll voice grating of all her ears she was sure she'd have dozed off already. Hey Diane, Anna the Flash whispered next to her, if Batman sees you dozing off like that he's going to ask you to take over the debriefing from him. You say it like he hasn't already noticed. Diana's sighed, maybe, but it's best not to let him call you out on it. The man's not afraid to embarrass anyone. Of course he isn't, but I didn't answer the summons just to listen to him talk abo. His suspicions. To be fair, he wouldn't call us all if he wasn't sure it was for a good reason. Flash slightly lifted his hands off the table. Diana, Barry, please listen. Superman cut into their conversation. This is important. Green Lantern rolled his eyes. It doesn't look like anyone's going to ask, so I am just going to say it. Do we really need to do this today? Now to be precise, it's 8. Yes, Green Lantern, we need to do this today. Batman responded Tollsley, your presence here isn't all that important, so if you don't feel the need to be here you're welcome to take your leave. Green Lantern glared at the man. It was no secret that the two didn't get along. Before he could come up with a retort, Superman quickly cut in. What do you means to say is that while this isn't exactly urgent, it's better we told you sooner than later. The common sighed and got up. I did not leave my duties on Atlantis to listen to trivial matters. Let me know when there is something important to discuss. Before Batman could respond, his communicator began to beep repeatedly. He brought out the device and looked at the screen. What is it? Canary. Batman, if you're in the Watchtower, tell everyone to get out now. The heroine's Uncharak terroristic panic was enough to put the whole group on high alert. Batman sent out an alert for evacuation almost immediately. What happened? Some kind of portal's been snatching everyone up. It just took Green Arrow and it's chasing me now. I don't know how long it'll take to find and get to you, but you nay Ed to live. Batman scowled at the communicator as the line got cut off. It didn't take much to figure out that Black Canary had been caught up too as well. He looked at the remaining members of the League who were prepared to fight or flee. We're going to mount justice now, whatever it is that took the Saint. We've got to find a way to stop it before it goes too far. It was only the Flash who barely managed to see the inky blackness that emerged from underneath the floor and consumed everyone before Batman could even finish his sentence. But before he could run away, his lower body disappeared into the blackness and he tipped into the portal. The last thing he was what looked like other people falling as well before his vision went dark. Uzumaki Naruto had learned early in life that there were situations in which all you could do was roll with whatever was happening and hope things turned out for the best. It was why, even though he didn't believe in fate, he still followed the predetermined path set for him by a prophecy he still didn't believe in and saved the world. It was also why he didn't fuss too much when he got swallowed up by a portal in River County on his way to San Agricar and Appy read in what looked like a giant room that seemed to have no confines yet somehow felt restricted enough for him to know it was a room and not some outer area. Beside from the dark surroundings and dead silence, it was a nice place. There was breathable air, the temperature was nice, the seat he'd found himself on was comfortable, and there didn't seem to be any threat of attack saved for the isolation. There wasn't anything to be concerned about. He was, however, very concerned when he saw a bunch of familiar faces get spat out. Gara, you're here too. He waved at the Reedid, who gave him a worried look, but he ND the man were Kakashi and Tsunade Naruto where are we? Gaara asked. Yeah, is this another one of your experiments with space-time? Tsunade placed her hands on her hips angrily. Verito shrugged. Your guess is as good as mine. I was filling my water flask in river country and next thing I know I'm Heir Tazuna is done with the plans for the aqueduct. By the way, Dara smiled at him. That's good news, Naruto. We can start the construction when we get back. He glanced at the distant space. If we get back, what were you doing in river country? Tsunade asked him. Didn't you say you were going on some pilgrimage to Demon Country? Demon Country, he told you where he was going. Kakashi's eyes widened. Burrito sighed. The truth would have come out anyways. I did go to Demon Country, but the path of the broken branch is determined by the current of the stream. Don't think sagely quotes are going to get you out of this. Naruto soon the day glared at him. You and I are going to have a long talk about the repercussions of lying to your superiors. We both know they don't really apply to me anymore. I saved the world. There's even a giant statue of me in Fang and Claw Country. As long as you're an active member of the Corps, I'd say you still fall under the rules. I've been trying to resign for months now, but my letters keep getting misplaced. Naruto gave the woman a knowing look that she didn't look away from. I don't know what you mean, Naruto. They could simply be getting mistaken for trash and taken out. That's what happens when you don't improve on your handwriting. My handwriting is perfectly legible and you know it. I'm a sage now, Granny. I can't just stay in one place. I've got even more reasons to be out there than pervy sage. I think we best get back to trying to figure out where we are. Kakashi nodded from It looks like we're in a pocket dimension. I've been in something like this before. It's most likely a room, Naruto commented as he looked around. Everyone looked at him, prompting him to shrug again. It doesn't have that limitless feel to it. You can tell there are wolves, meaning it's limited. A pocket dimension would just stretch on and on. This might just be a very large room. If you knew what it was before, why didn't you just say so? Tsunade asked annoyedly. Because he doesn't know, Lady Tsunade. Gaara said. Our main concern now is how to get out of here. I would try the Kamui, but while Kakashi led off, it was in times like these he wished he got to keep the Sharingan after the war. Don't talk about what you could do if you can't do it anymore. Tsunade scowled at him before turning to look at Naruto. Any ideas on how to get out? Maybe a technique or a seal? Nope, he shook his head. Even if I can the Horatian, there are no active tags anywhere. What about that portal you've been working on? Kakashi asked. I still haven't been able to write coordinates into the index and I don't know the whole seal off head, so we're stranded. Tsunade's sighed. For now perhaps. Gaara said. It is safe to say that Ativer took us did so for a purpose. It did not select us randomly, nor did it simply take everyone, otherwise it would be the whole world here. Verito started. Gaara is right. The best we can do right now is wait to find out what we're here for and hope we're able to get back when it's over. It seems like we're not going to be the only ones here. Takeshim mused as he watched another group of strangely dressed people get spat out. He noted with a large amount of glee that a few of them were very attractive women. One of them, a man in what looked like a bad-themed suit of armor, noticed them and walked toward them with narrowed eyes. The ninjas tensed, prepared to fight if necessary. Who are you? He asked them. Kakashi blinked. The man sounded like he had a sore throat and he spoke a language that he didn't understand. Apparently it's not just your dressing that's strange, Kakashi said. The man frowned and turned to look at his group who had followed him. Then you identify what language they're speaking? It's similar to Japanese, but I don't recognize the vocabulary. The ring isn't picking anything either. Another man in a green suit that Kakashi noted looked way cooler than guys said. Try to use sign language. Or get him to talk some more. If the ring can pick up a pattern, it'll help with the language. The bad-themed man nodded and turned back to him and spoke again, this time using sign language in tandem. Who are you all? Are you the ones who brought us here? The Kashi nodded inwardly. While some of the man's words were understandable, but the language still largely resembled gibberish. The sign language got the message across. Luckily he was skilled in sign language too. It's considered impolite to ask for one's name without giving yours first, he responded and smiled at the man through his mask. That man, the rings picked something up. The man in green said, I'll send it to you now. Try using the language through the translator, maybe they'll get it. I'll share it with you all. The bad-themed man nodded and Kakashi's hand suddenly inched towards his weapons pouch as the stranger suddenly reached into what looked Ed like a bell concealed by his cape, his action didn't escape the notice of the remaining strangers who looked like they were ready to attack him as well. He watched as the man brought out small devices and passed him around before attaching one to his helmet. A few moments later the man spoke again. Here are we. The Kashi blinked. He could understand him now. I can understand you now. Answer the question. Awfully demanding, aren't you? Takashi gave him an unimpressed look. You don't know the half of it. Another blonde man clad in green muttered, getting a nudge in the side from another blonde female. Our guess is as good as mine, Kakashi finally answered as he glanced at the rest of the strangers who were watching him closely. He couldn't blame them. For all they knew, he and the others could have been the ones to bring them here. We're in a room. Naruto spoke out, getting everyone's attention. At least I think we are no Sherlock. The man in the green suit said. Naruto noted with amazement how much power was packed into the glowing ring on his finger. Where exactly are we? Like what world? Hell if I know. We got here in the same manner as you, Naruto said. The man in green gave him a look that said he didn't believe him but didn't ask anything else. The man and armor didn't have such reservations, so you all just happened to be comfortable being in a place where you got forcefully transported to. That's quite convenient. Would you rather? We all panicked. Tsunade entered the conversation. The man turned his gaze from Kakashi to her before he could respond. A man in blue tapped him on the shoulder. I'll take it from here. Batman. Superman said. We don't know who they are. Superman. Batman insisted. For all we know they could be the ones to bring us here. They look like they know as much as we do. Batman. They also look willing to help us out. They've been nothing but cordial with us and I'd like to keep it that way. That man didn't respond but stepped away for Superman to approach them. Superman smiled at the blonde woman and brought his hand out for a shake while trying not to let his eyes go to he. Our bust. Hello, my name is Superman. If it's not too much trouble, I'd like to know your names as well. Because she smiled at him. Kakashi. Tsunade nodded at him but didn't shake his hand. Tsunade era nodded as well. Gara Burrito smiled and shook his hand. Naruto. Hey, pardon me if this comes off as rude. Why do you wear your underwear outside? Superman's smile froze on his face. This again? Well, it's not exactly underwear, it's armor. Burrito nodded. Nice. It's probably for the best if you wore it inside, though. Give your enemies a nasty surprise when they go for your dick but end up hitting armor instead. I'll keep that in mind, Superman said. And these are Green Arrow. The blonde archer waved at him. Black Canary. The woman smirked. Naruto made sure not to stare at her for too long with how close she was to the arrow guy. They were probably dating that man. Only the ninja's trained eyes let them see the man's small nod. Green Lantern. The man gave them a small wave. A flash. A man fully clad in red gave Naruto a peace sign that he returned. He was cool. Martian Manhunter. The bold green alien with red eyes simply stared at him. Your minds are well protected. There was an awkward silence as the three ninjas tried to process what he said. It was Tsunade who spoke. You tried to enter our minds. No wonder I felt someone prodding at my skull. It's a thing with his race. Superman hastily jumped to his defense. They all communicate telepathically. He's been doing it all his life and old habits die hard. I assure you he didn't do it out of mouse. It's for the best that he doesn't try that again. Kakashi's smile wasn't as friendly as it had once been. We don't take kindly to invasions of privacy of that degree. And why is that? Batman asked. For the same reason you wouldn't want someone going seeing everything you know and watching all your memories. Gara responded. I apologize, the man said. Naruto gave him a smile. To be honest, he almost hadn't noticed the man's attempts at entering his mind. Had they been anyone other than Konohanan, who had been trained extensively to protect their minds from the likes of the Yamanaka Angara, who had to steal his own to avoid getting forced into sleep, they'd probably be open books in front of the alien. Right? Superman tried to get back on track. And here's Wonder Woman. Oh wow, Naruto thought, feeling his face burn. He'd seen lots of attractive women in life, but this Wonder Woman really lived up to her name. A muscular frame that didn't interfere with her curvature, eyes more blue than his own lush raven hair that made him want to run his fingers through them just to know how they felt. The woman in question caught him staring and raised an eyebrow. Underscore 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 underscore. He couldn't have her thinking he was just some idiot without self-control. Tsunade memorized their names, which were clearly aliases, but it made sense they were still strangers. The Kashi noticed his former student's predicament and coughed loudly. Hey Naruto, do you think there's a chance of more people getting brought here? Burrito turned away from her. Unless we're the only ones it meant to pick. No, we'll be seeing more people. You know what brought us here? Batman asked. It was a portal. I'm sure you saw it as well. Naruto said. The real question is why it brought us here. Do you know where it came from? No, but considering how it's been bringing us, it's not a naturally occurring anomaly. Naruto folded his arms. I mean, portals aren't natural anyways. Flash spoke. Naruto gave him an odd look. They're not. I've seen some occur before my very eyes at sites of previous battles, but then it's often in places where battles involving the use of space-time techniques happened. That doesn't make them natural. Naruto, portals are created with a destination in mind. Flash, if it's a seal like the animal. Burrito blinked. There's an animal named a seal. It's kind of obvious that we're from a different world. You two. Green Lantern rolled his eyes. Of course things would be different. Out of nowhere a book dropped onto the floor, creating a noise loud enough to attract everyone's attention. Bam! I've heard gunshots quieter than that. Green Arrow muttered, rubbing his ear. Whoever made it appear obvious sly wanted to make sure we knew it was here. Black Canary said, rubbing his shoulder. They all approached the book but made no move to pick it up as they examined its appearance with their eyes. Caterpillar. Superman read the title. We got sent here to read about caterpillars. Someone must have skipped so many biology classes it pissed off the universe. Flash joked. That wouldn't happen to be you, Batman, would it? The man didn't respond. How do we know there isn't a trap in the book? The cashier rolled his eyes. Unless you've got a means of disabling everything without touching the book, someone's going to H Avenue to open it and find out. Naruto been to pick the book just as Wonder Woman did. They both retracted for the other at the same time before Naruto picked the book. Underscore underscore. That was awkward. Sorry, I didn't think you'd want to take it as well. Wonder Woman smiled slightly. It's nice to see someone as brave as you are. That was less of bravery and more of confidence that there wasn't any trap the book could be rigged with that he couldn't tank. But he smiled back. Thanks, you're pretty gutsy yourself. The group watched tensely as Naruto cautiously opened the book before rapidly flipping through the pages. When he reached the back, he flipped it all the way to the front again before slamming it shut and holding it by the covers, then shaking it. I'd say it's safe. Naruto concluded there might be a time delay on the explosives if there are any. Batman reasoned. On the book. Naruto snorted. Don't rule anything out. Sure. Naruto opened it again and picked out a note. This wasn't here before. What does it say? Tsunade asked. Burrito started. I've brought you all here to read about the caterpillar. Where really? Green Arrow got cut off again by another nudge. I'm sure you are all aware of the existence of multi-PLE dimensions, some of which are relatively similar to yours, saved for the fact that some events have different outcomes. This is one of such events. Does it say anything about who brought us here? Flash asked. Only for a note to fall on his head. He took it and read it. My identity does not concern you. Of course. Naruto resumed reading. You will all be returned to your separate dimensions when this is over. Don't worry, there's no passage of time both in here and in your worlds. I understand that you are curious as to who I am. And Batman asked impatiently. There's no and Batman, that's all. Naruto chuckled and handed him the note after turning it to the other side. I believe the sooner we get started the better for all of us. Garrus said, let's get this over with so we can return to our respective lives. Everyone gathered in. Naruto sat in the center. He flipped the book to the first page and began to read. Chapter 1. The Preserver. Superman's face. Howard, I'm guessing you know who this is, Kakashi asked the man. The Preserver goes around the universe collecting one of every rare air and endangered species and race he can find, be it a plant, animal or person. He locked me up in his ship for a while. Superman express Lander. Humans rare or endangered? Where you're from? Naruto asked. I'm not human, I'm a Kryptonian. Superman said. The word didn't bring any bells for the trio. You look human to me, but I'm guessing it's an endangered race. Naruto said. Yeah, endangered. The man's sorrowful look discouraged Naruto from a Skiing any more questions and he went back to reading. Hey monkey wants a nana. A very tall and buff gray-skinned humanoid creature said mockingly while imitating a monkey. It was Lobo, one of the most infamous bounty hunters in the galaxy. Green Lantern burst into laughter. Lobo took you to the preserver. That's rich. What do you mean? Tsunoday asked. Lobo is the last of his kind. The preserver won't let him leave the ship if he can help it. Green Lantern said, getting nods from the ninjas. I don't think he realizes his own situation, Garrus said quietly, getting a chuckle from everyone who heard. They'll find out soon enough. Green Arrow smirked. When I get out I'm shoving that arrogant smirk right down your throat, a human man said angrily from behind a glass wall. He was imprisoned in a room with glass for walls. It was none other than Superman. The screen appeared to show everyone the scene. It beat the point of reading a book, but it only seemed to follow Naruto's words. So there was that doesn't look like a ship at all. Kakashi observed. Either technology had improved to the point where ships could be built at large and have such peculiar designs, or they were lying about it being a ship he was going for the latter. What kind of ships had glass prisons? It's not a boat kind of ship, it's a spaceship, the Flash clarified, getting blank looks from the four ninjas. A vessel designed for the purpose of interstellar travel. You'll have to simplify it further for US Flash. Tsunoday said it's used to travel through space. Flash said outer space, the blank area that exists outside your planet. Though we know that. Naruto snapped his fingers. Thank God. Out of curiosity, how advanced would you consider your world in the way of techno apology? Flash continued, you can discuss that later. Batman spoke before gesturing towards Naruto. Keep reading. Naruto rolled his eyes. It's not like it matters if we're fast or slow, there's no movement of time. He's not wrong. Naruto continues. Tsunade said. Burrito shrugged. However, unlike his name suggested, he was currently severely weakened due to the radiation of an artificial red sun shining in his cell. Red sun? Gara asked confusedly. Why would the sun make you weak? Tsunoday asked. Superman, not just any sun, a red sun. Superman clarified. There are different kinds of suns. Naruto asked excitedly. Yes, there are red suns, yellow suns, blue suns, white suns. Suns are just stars that planets orbit around. Green Lanterns said they've got different colors as a result of differing cores, radiations and the likes. As a result they all have different effects on the body. That's quite the textbook explanation. Black Canary snickered. I'm guessing that's the ring's work. Hey, I know lots of things. Self. Green Lantern frowned at her. That would be best if we let Naruto keep reading. Martian Manhunter spoke out for the first time since his introduction. Naruto made a mental note to meet Superman and Green Lantern after this was over. Before they left he had to know everything. Bogey, you know, I believe that Lois gal might be getting a tad lonely now that you're doing time in a cosmic petting zoo. Maybe I'll go back and cheer her up, Lobo said and rubbed his chin while laughing. I'll kill him if he tries. Superman clenched his fists as his eyes glowed red, getting the rest to look at him with a mix of curiosity and alarm. He's just baiting you, man, chill out. Naruto pacified him. I'm sure he wouldn't be saying that if you weren't behind the glass. Naruto is right, Superman. Wonder Woman said. Besides, it's another universe. Nothing you do here will affect anything there. Superman nodded and closed his eyes. When he opened them again they were back to their blue coloration. That's neat, Naruto muttered. In spite of his relative distance to the man, he'd still felt the heat radiating from his eyes. Unless the man somehow learned how to gather his body heat and release it through his eyes, it was probably a Kryptonian thing. But of course I do have to collect the bounty on this geek first, he said as he pointed at the rat-like creature he had on the leash. Emperor Spooge got a bad temper on him. Then turning towards the levitating yellow creature behind him, he made a salute with his hand at his forehead and said, the adios wrinkles. You want any more? Dork snagged. You got my number? The one in question? The preserver replied. Quite ugly, isn't he? Kakashi chuckled. Actually there is one other being I need for my collection, the last Chardian. Green Lantern laughed. Called it this? Lobo is called a Jarnian. Naruto asked. Ed, no, his race were called Jarnians. He's the last of them, as you can tell. Huh, that's kind of sad. Narita thought to be the last of his own. What a lonely existence. Global laughed out loud. Haha, that's rich. I'm the last Chardian then. As if it was a big secret, he told Superman. I fragged the rest of the Lene, for my high school science project I gave myself and a maybe not so sad he destroyed his own world soon the day he looked horrified as did the others who didn't know why would he do that nobody really knows Superman said it's Lobo the only way you can really understand how chaotic he is. If you meet him yourself which I hope you don't yeah he got arrested and executed for it too Green Lantern said come to think of it how come he's still alive his execution was made public Naruto stayed silent as his mind went back to the second part of the prophecy he didn't really believe in it but was there a chance he could have done the same as Lobo what did the man experienced on his world to push him to destroy it he looked at Guerra who placed his hand on his shoulder the man didn't speak but it was clear that he understood what was going on his mind he gave him a half-hearted smile Batman's eyes narrowed into two had Naruto tried doing something similar before the preserver said no more with a wave of his hand a glass cage fell from the ceiling on top of Lobo before he had the time to react extremely potent sleeping gas poured from the floor Lobo tried to resist and punch the glass walls but it was futile he fell unconscious in a matter of seconds that doesn't look survivable soon a day observed the cage unless there was air coming in through the top of the cage Lobo was a dead man thanks for returning my uniform now how about my ship Superman said after he finished changing Fr. own Kryptonian's traditional attire into his Superman costume not a chance Green Arrow chuckled impossible the preservers said for ages have preserved many rare creatures even some from your adopted planet Earth do you think those historical cases of missing people and alien appearances and abducted cows is because of the preserver Flash rubbed his chin it's a possibility Green Lantern admitted the ninjas glanced at each other abducted cows I'm not an animal to keep me stuck in a cage Superman said revolted normally I don't take sentient beings but you and Lobo are all that survived from your respective home worlds same for this nine-tailed fox over here named QB the preserver said and pointed towards the glass cage next to that of Superman QB the surprise cries from the ninjas caused the superheroes to jump they stared at Naruto in worry for the QB to have been taken it would have either been ripped out of him or taken after his death neither of which they liked they said only the QB survived in our world soon a day said shakily we're all dead the world's destroyed Burrito stared at the book feeling numb all over for Kurama to be the only survivor he had most likely been the one to destroy the world then meaning he had found a way to break free or he had been the one to release him had the prophecy been real did he really destroy the world in this dimension even if indirectly the superhero stared at them unsure of what to say how did you comfort people who found out about their world being destroyed especially when you couldn't relate I don't really know what led to your world's end Superman started slowly but I understand what you're going through I'm also the last of my kind at least one of them my world's been destroyed too but if it's any consolation this is another dimension not the future your world meeting this fate doesn't necessarily mean yours will too but I think that's why you were to read this so you could gain something what could we possibly gain from knowing that we're dead soon a day snarled at him he means that we have an opportunity to look at our own selves Garrus said to look at what could lead to us meeting the same fate and trying to change it make amends thankfully there does not seem to be much need for that considering we are already trying to change Naruto nodded but didn't say anything he needed to meditate Flash tapped Batman's shoulder hey bats what's a QB a nine-tailed fox spirit from Japanese mythology Batman said in it a small crimson-red fox cub was chewing on a chunk of meat several times larger than it well its nine fluffy tails wagged lazily at its back that's the QB Wonder Woman asked its rather cute burrito snurr. Ted if Kurama wasn't asleep he was sure he would be roaring at being called cute Flash asked it looks harmless why were you all worried about it it doesn't matter Takashi said let's get back to reading shall we Batman had a feeling that it did matter but didn't say anything he'd try to find out late. Are these two have adjusted well to their new surroundings I suggest you do the same after the preserver floated away Superman furrowed his brows as he witnessed Lobo getting gassed by the two robot girls attending to his needs when he tried to escape Wonder Woman made a disgusted sound the filthy Lectu Ryu don't like him much huh? Naruto chuckled. They tried to make advances at me the first time we met. They were as revolting as the word can get. Some people can be like that. Naruto's mind went back to one woman he'd met on his travels that he had to reject after she told him what she'd do to him. She was hot but sick in the head. The chuckle came from the cage where the small fox cub was imprisoned. First time getting locked up unexpectedly. It was the very deep voice of a male. Even more unexpected it was that it was speaking in English. You people know English, why didn't you say it to us? Flash asked. Kakashi asked. Never mind. Superman looked at the talking fox dumbly surprised, not only added speaking in English but also marveling at how the huge chunk of raw meat was disappearing at a mind-boggling speed into the tiny being's jaws. Burrito chuckled. Kurama had a centuries of experience with Aya. Ting meet the unfortunate criminals he occasionally let the tailed beast attack. Could bear witness to that. After he was done eating, QB arched its back and stretched its small limbs. A cute yip escaped from his mouth as he yawned. Then he jumped on the comfortable-looking circular bed and started to poo. Shish against a mattress with his tiny paws, not unlike a cat. Before he finally found the perfect place after eating a chunk of meat 10 times larger than his entire body weight. Nothing was better than a sweet afternoon nap. Wonder Woman smiled softly at the sight. Are you seriously content with staying locked up like this? Superman asked when he looked at the fox cub, who seemed like he could not care less about their predicament. It's not like he has anywhere else to go. Naruto shrugged. When there's nowhere to go and nothing to do, you just find yourself taking whatever life gives you until you can think of something better. Amen to that. Green Arrow said he spent his first few months on the island living the day before deciding he'd established himself enough to start dedicating resources to try getting back to civilization. If Yubi opened his eyes lazily and said, and what would you have me do? The idea brings is always laced with tranquilizing drugs. It saps all my strength and he still eats it. Superman asked. The ninjas looked confused at that. Naruto more than the rest. It wasn't like Kurama to willingly let himself get weakened. Superman had an incredulous look on his face. Why would you keep on eating it if you knew it was drug? The fox cub let out another cute yawn before he said, how can I turn down free food? Relax, everything is going according to the plan. He's got a plan. Green Lantern asked skeptically. What's that? Eat until he gets fully weakened and play possum in the hopes that the P reserver tosses him out. I don't know, but I have a feeling we'll find out if we let Naruto read, Takashi said without interrupting him. Right. Green Lantern looked sheepish, but Superman did not finish his question because at that moment a powerful tremor shook the entire air spaceship. The preservers ship so was gigantic. One had to measure its size using miles for such an enormous ship to shake that badly. It spoke volumes about how powerful the attack that it impacted. It must have been deafening. Alarms started to blare and numerous robots swarmed the corridors of the ship. Few bees' large ears flick as they captured a particular sound. Blind style vacuum wave. Wait, that voice? Kakashi said. Naruto Tsunade looked ecstatic. You're alive? Yeah, I'm here, aren't I? Naruto grinded. Her not you. The former Cage slapped him on the back. The other you. Do you think there's a chance that the rest of us survive? D2 Gara asked. Probably. Naruto said. If your world's gone but you two somehow survived, there's a chance you were involved in its destruction. Batman pointed out. That killed the mood. Guard glared at the man. Not only that the giant metal doors of the room were cut in half, but the whip-like wind technique UE continued to fly and sliced all the robots on the corridor clean from the middle. It's a lot more powerful than I remember it to be. Kakashi noted. I've never seen Naruto do something like this before. Tsunade said. Neither have I. The last person I saw using a technique like this was Danzo and Will The man could cut clean through rock and walls. I doubt he could create one powerful enough to go through metal of that density and keep going. I'm just surprised the other me even said the name of the technique. Naruto said. I stopped doing that after the third Raikage called me out on it. I told you multiple times that it was stupid. Naruto. Kakashi's side HMPF show off. QP said snarkily. Why do you even keep on saying the names of your jutsu? It's not like you need to anymore. And what took you so long? I've been locked up for 2 days already. The newcomer's face was hidden behind an Anbu style WH ITE fox mask with red lines drawn on it, but QB did not need to see his face to know that he was grinning widely from one ear to another, keeping the culture alive. Kakashi smiled at Naruto, who looked amused by the mask. Wonder how you got one, though his other self most likely joined the Anbu at one point in his life. Tsunade looked angry. The idea of Naruto joining the Black Ops branch of the military put a bitter taste in her mouth. But's the Anbu? Black Canary asked. It sounds like the military. It is. Kakashi nodded. I don't really see why you all look so against the idea then. Green Lantern said, I can tell you're all military, even Naruto. It's in how you carry yourselves. Well, the Anbu is more like the Black Ops part of the military, Naruto specified. Basically the guys who do the dirty work. Oh yeah, it was probably for the best that pervy sage neglected to tell Tsunade about the assassinations he had him carry out during the 3-year trip. They're not military. Batman thought they carried themselves like fighters, but they mask certain gestures and favor concealed weapons. They're assassins. So how long have you been serving? Green Lantern continued. Now that would be telling. Kakashi I wagged his finger. They see me rolling. They hate for real. For real. Naruto smiled. Haters will hate. Potatoes will potate. Flash joined in and the two burst into laughter. The others rolled their eyes. Maybe you should spend less time with B, don't you think? Kakashi's sighed. No, Naruto said before pointing a T-Flesh. Even if I did, I've got another bro here, man. I'm going to be bummed when we leave. Flash's smile dampened. You seem like you'd be fun to hang out with. I'm already working on a portal. Naruto grinned. Give me your coordinates, and if I get it down you'll be seeing me sooner than you think. Holy __. You're working on a portal? Flash looked amazed, as did the rest. That could revolutionize transport. No more ships, no more risky flights, just pass through a hole in the fabric of space and time and voila, you've arrived at your destination. I know, right? Let's get back to this, please. Batman sighed. Ori. GHT. Naruto flipped to the next page, pairing QB starting to growl at him. The newcomer added, come on, what's cooler than bursting in to save the day, saying the baddest name of a cool technique and kicking everyone's ass? You're just jealous. Superman looked at the man and the fox arguing with each other in an alien language. He did not understand a word from what they were saying, but apparently the man was very talented in pissing off the little fox. However, as amusing as it was to watch the nine-tailed fox cub kicking up a fuss, there were other pressing matters at hand. He decided to interrupt them. Hat's rude. Superman. Naruto shook his head. Superman smiled awkwardly. Sorry they friend, would you mind helping me get out of this cage? Naruto fiddled with a translating device installed at his belt for a moment before replying to Superman in a perfect English. Oh wow, what is a human doing all the I hear Lobo attacked me and lured me in the range of this ship, and the Preserver captured us both, but I'm not a human, I'm a Kryptonian. Though Superman could not see his expression due to the mask he was wearing, he got the feeling that he was very surprised. It's pretty understandable. Green Arrow sigh. You're as likely to find kryptonite in your backyard as you are to find a Kryptonian in space. True, they all just comes to Earth. Green Lantern nodded. Kryptonite isn't all that uncommon, though it is. Lantern. Superman clarified. Like hell, it's not a person at your eyes. Stopped in Metropolis last week. Had like 5 of them in his pocket. Maxwell Lord literally uses them as his chandelier. Lex Luthor has a new shard every week after you destroy the last one, and some sex trafficker had a kryptonite collar for when he finally met Supergirl. Wait, what was that last one again? Read Naruto, but that's not I am important right now, Superman said quickly. Please help me get out before the Preserver comes with reinforcements. Naruto nodded and clenched his fist, about to punch the glass when QB's and white voice came from behind. They you __, free me up first. Burrito snorted. Come out yourself, you lazy pig. That's true, he can free himself just fine. Burrito frowned at the book. Give Kurama some love. Damn it, these are small fox that ate meat, probably drugged enough to kill an elephant. Green Arrow said, you'll see he's just being lazy. Naruto insisted. Honestly, laziness was Kurama's main enemy. Kurama wouldn't tackle a problem that would eventually disappear if he waited long enough. The tisk came from the fox cub, who then proceeded to increase in size until he was no smaller than a horse. His previously fluffy and cute 9 tails were now much larger and apparently incredibly powerful, given that the reinforced GLA SS that had been caging him until then was smashed effortlessly with a mere swipe of one of his tails, but QB did not linger in that large size for a second longer than necessary and immediately turned back to his original appearance, that of a tiny fox cub. None of the superheroes spoke, even Superman was shocked. Quite, he struggled against that same glass and the harmless animal had destroyed it as if it were no more than soggy paper. Well, that happened. Black Canary chuckled awkwardly. I'd like to meet this QB one day, Wonder Woman said. Respectably powerful and aesthetically pleasing, a wonderful pet to have. He wouldn't take kindly to being called a pet, but with me and you will. Naruto smiled at her. Flash looked at him in mild surprise. He'd said something similar first day he met the woman too. You know where it is? Wonder Woman asked. Something like that, yes, Naruto. The moment later, the glass imp rising Superman was shattered with a punch from Naruto and Superman stepped out quickly, letting out a sigh of relief. Thank you, it was nothing, Naruto said dismissively before turning his back at Superman and going back to QB. He scooped the small fox in his arms and then put him on his shoulder. The fox then curled up into a ball of fluff and closed his eyes. It fell asleep. Strangely enough, no matter what kind of movements Naruto made, the little fox seemed like it was glued to his shoulder, not budging one bit. Even if Naruto were to bend down completely, that is odd, Superman said and turned to Naruto. Do you know how it's doing? Bad? Yeah, it's a secret. Naruto smiled under his mask and gently patted a small fox on his shoulder. Sleep tight, Kurama, I'll take care of these annoyances, he said, and his hands began to form a series of hand seals when another group of robots appeared at the end of the corridor. This time around, a vortex of razor-sharp wind shot from his mouth and shredded to bits everything in its way. Aren't you worried about collateral damage? Superman asked him again, and those attacks might hit innocents. Naruto blinked. It's a kidnapper's ship filled with captured animals and people, Superman argued. People who didn't have a choice to be there. It's the other me, man. Besides, I'm sure he found a way to free them already, Naruto said. If the other Naruto was like him, he'd have made clones to go around freeing as many as he could. Don't forget your promise, Lobo. You said that. Why? Oh, you leave me and everyone else on Earth alone. The main man's word is his bond, man, Lobo said. Like him or hate him, that much is true, Superman said. Unlike his normally flippant and goofy attitude, the Chartian appeared to be very serious. It seemed as though he truly lived by what he said, that he never went back on his words. Naruto whistled, impressed. He's a psychopath that murdered his entire race, but he does have his good points too, he muttered to himself. Professionals have standards, Kakashi said, especially since he's a mercenary. The word of your mouth has to be trustworthy if you want to get BU. Siness, how would you know he's a mercenary? Green Lantern asked. They gave the preserver his number and asked the man to call him for more jobs. Kakashi raised his eyebrow. Were you not following? Not going back on one's word was something that Naruto could respect, since he was exactly the same, a truly respectable trait. Wonder Woman agreed, smiling at Naruto. Lobo came to him and extended his hand for a handshake. I owe you one, I'll pay back this favor anytime you need it. And with that, he jumped on his space bike and left a dry dock of the spaceship. See you around, big guy, Naruto said and waved towards Superman as he turned around. You better not stick around, this ship will self-destruct any moment now. Superman felt his stomach drop. What? Speaking of the devil? Just as he finished his words, a loud but clear robotic voice was heard through the entire ship of the preserver, initializing self-destructing sequence. Remaining time until the explosion of the ion engines and reactor, 5 minutes. As he was leaving, Naruto felt a heavy hand pat him on the shoulder. Superman's angry voice came from behind. Why did you do that, Naruto? His head in confusion. The what? Superman was even more irritated at his reactio. And all these creatures are now going to die. I could have saved them. I could have taken them to Earth. Verudo shrugged his shoulders. Verudo frowned at the screen. It wasn't like him to just leave people to die without good reason, even if they were animals. I didn't know you were such a bleeding heart. You're just beasts, animals, though it's unfortunate that they will die. It can't be helped. Would it have been better to leave this ship as it was and let an end in the wrong hands? Imagine if some space pirates took control over this ship after we left. They'd have enough firepower to raid an entire plane. T in the end leaving them behind is the lesser evil compared to risking the chances of the ship getting in the wrong HSNDS. Takashi's side we could have figured something out. Superman retorted like what soon a day cut in you don't have a ship. Naruto's ship probably can't contain dozens if not hundreds of thousands of occupants and I highly doubt they can survive the conditions of space or would you run around aimlessly till you got lucky and found a way to stuff them all somewhere safe before the ship exploded. They could have tried commandeering the ship to somewhere safe and dropped all the OCC. You pants off before destroying it. Batman reasoned. I'm very sure the other me would have done that if he could. Naruto said I'm not one for letting people die but when none of your available options are good it's best to just go for the least bad one. The other me would have saved them if he could but he can't and he's chosen to do the next best thing. That's good enough for me. It's sad that hundreds are going to die but it's better than letting the wrong people get their hands on something that can be used to make thousands suffer. Nobody spoke after that and Naruto took it as his cue to continue. Ermin became silent when he thought about things from that perspective. He understood Naruto's point. It was much better for some animals to die than for such a large and technologically advanced ship to end up in the hands of a villain. Superman's side you should get going, there are only 3 minutes left, Naruto said when he heard the robotic voices countdown. Then turning around he sprinted towards his own spaceship. His shadow clones had already started the engines of the ship and opened the blast doors of the dry dock, so all he had to do was to just jump in and close the ship's door behind him. While he was pulling the door of his spaceship after him, Superman flew in with an urgent look on his face. You can fly? Naruto gave the man an amazed look. Yes, I can fly. Superman scratched the back of his head. I've always wanted to be able to fly, Naruto said. But you can fly, Kakashi pointed out. I want to be able to fly without looking like a flare. My ship was destroyed in the fight against the Preserver. I need your help to get out of here. Burrito did not waste any time and let him in. A moment later the ion thrusters propelled the spaceship to several miles away. Even then it was still too close to the Preserver's ship. Is that a boom tube? Superman said in surprise. What's a boom tube? Naruto asked. It's a wormhole to cut travel time short. Green Lantern said an hour's journey can be cut to a few seconds with one. That's brilliant. Yeah, it is something similar to a very small wormhole was opened in space and no shadow clones drove the ship right into it. Not exactly, it's nowhere near as precise as a boom tube, but I don't have a mother box. That stuff is very rare and hard to come by. This is more like a wormhole, but it's the latest warp technology from Almaric, so it's pretty good. It gets the job done. Isn't that where that queen that tried to fight you came from? Flash asks Superman. Whose side? I mean, Tsunade gave him a curious look. Their name was Maxima. Long story short, she challenged me to a fight in which I'd be able to marry her if I won. Huh, that sounds familiar. Kakashi looked at Naruto, who looked away. It's happened to you too? Superman asked the boy. I had less of a choice in it than you, but yeah, it happened. She was hot and she's a genuinely wonderful person, but I could do without the marry me if you win, die if you lose thing. Finally someone who understood. Naruto was lying in his chair bonelessly with an expression of defeat on his face. There's nothing about our home here either. Burrito frowned. I thought it was destroyed. Why am I still searching for it then? Perhaps you don't know it's gone on, Garo offered, or the Preserver had simply assumed the QP was the last of its world because he wasn't able to find any other one like it. QB, who was awake now, head-butted Naruto gently with his snout and wrapped his 9 tails around his neck as to comfort him. The shadow of a smile appeared on his face, but it was not visible due to the fox mask covering it. Still he brought his hand up to pet QB as a show of gratitude. They may love to argue with each other, but for the past 90 years they had always been together, protecting each other's back. They were inseparable, best friends for life. Alongside came out of his chest. Burrito smiled softly. He could easily say he didn't have any friend as close to him as Kurama was, and even though the tailed beast would never admit it, he felt the same. What are you looking for? Superman asked curiously when he came into the control room of the ship and saw the somber mood. It was QB that replied to him. Our homeworld, that's why I even let E-self get captured by that creep for us to have a legitimate reason to raid his ship and access his database, so that was the plan. Green Lantern muttered. That was not the first time the Preserver had tried to capture QB. Over the past 90 years he had tried to do that several times but to no success. Weaver, this time around Naruto and QB made a plan for QB to let himself get captured so Naruto would raid his ship for information. Hey, it's exactly like the plan with Hazuki Castle. Naruto gave Tsunade and Kakashi a humorless smile. Naruto, we've already apologized to Kashi's side again. You tried to apologize by buying me one bowl of ramen. I've forgiven you, but I'm never forgetting that. The Preserver is rather infamous in the galaxy for his hobby collecting all kinds of rare and endangered species to preserve, even going as far as to kill for it, so it makes sense that he has a great deal of information about the universe's geography as a whole. There was a chance that maybe he knew something about our homeworld since he was so adamant about capturing me all these years. Veridо scratched at his spiky blonde hair. This is hopeless, he said with a defeated voice. I've traveled through all the 3,600 sectors of the known universe in search for my homeworld. I've visited all the stellar and planetary systems with humanoid creatures in them and all the planets inhabited by human-like beings. I hate to say it, but if you've gone to all 3,600 and still haven't found anything about your world, it's either destroyed or it doesn't exist in that dimension. Green Lantern said, I've even gone to the Green Lantern Corps headquarters OHA to ask for information, but nobody has ever heard anything about the elemental nations. This guy, the Preserver, was my last hope, even with his legendary stubbornness. After almost 100 years of fruitlessly scouring the universe for a way back home, Naruto was at the end of his wits. Finally he realized the futility of it all. He did not even have the energy to get angry anymore. I'm just tired. The poignant silence followed. Superman gave the blonde man a sympathetic low. Okay, while he hadn't gone searching around the universe, he had once possessed a single-minded determination to go to Krypton's remains and see if he could find any survivors, even if it was unlikely. Naruto couldn't help feeling sorry for his other self. He didn't know what he'd do with himself if he got separated from everyone he knew permanently. It won't be the same with you, Naruto Gaara assured. We're here, we still are. Yeah, thanks, he nodded. Thanks a lot. I'm sorry to hear that. I know how it feels to be the last of your kind, Superman said quietly, but you can't give up on living. Though some things were lost, you can gain others in the future. My parents and my homeworld perished, but I found a new family and new friends on Earth. Now I have one purpose: to protect my adopted home, to protect it so the Earth won't die like Krypton. Naruto's appreciation for Superman went up a notch when he heard his words. He became silent in contemplation. You are more than welcome to join us. You wouldn't be the first nor the last alien to have found a home on Earth. Superman offered. Wonderful sales pitch. Naruto chuckled, but I doubt that's going to be enough to get me to go to Earth. The blonde couldn't suppress a snort. Their purpose and feelings are admirable, but of all the places in this galaxy, why would I choose Earth? Haha, pay, what do you mean? What's so bad about my planet? Naruto's fingers danced on the keyboard of the supercomputer of the control room, and after a few moments a data sheet appeared on the large screen. As I said, during the plus 90 years that I've traveled the universe, I've visited all the planets with human-like beings. I've visited the Earth too, about 60 years ago. What's wrong with your planet? I don't know about the current situation, but when I went there was a freaking world war there. Technology was one of the most backwater I've ever seen of a sentient species in the entire universe, and it went the same for the gen population's mentality too. Dictatorship focused on suppressing the population, genocides, racism, and like half of the population was struggling to find something to eat from one week to another, and that's just data that I collected in a matter of days. Why would anyone willingly come to such a place? Marita whistled. Man, your world's messed up. The superheroes shifted awkwardly. They were familiar with Earth's problems, but it didn't mean they liked getting it rubbed in their faces. Rare work in progress, Green Arrow said finally. Superman dressed his voice awkwardly. They were indeed many issues in the past. Some of them still exist, I will not lie, but we have come a long way since then. Your information is quite outdated. Our technology exploded over the past few decades. To the point where we are able to travel in space. Racism has been abolished in most parts of the world and there are very few dictatorship left. We have a saying on Earth, don't diss it till you try it. Maybe it won't be as bad as you think it is. When people say it like that, it usually means the world still, just not as much as it used to be. Naruto shook his head. It looks like I've got a good thing going in space. I'm not going to stop and go to Earth then end up dealing with the stuff that goes on there. He looked at the superheroes. I don't mean offense by that, it's fine, Flash said. We're king to change things for the better. That's nice, that's very nice. Naruto shrugged his shoulders, not very interested. Well, I'll have to take you to Earth anyway, so we'll see then. Naruto started typing again on the keyboard and an extremely large and detailed interstellar map appeared on the large screen. And it was a map of the Milky Way galaxy. After typing Earth in a search bar, the map was zoomed in greatly to the point where the map of the solar system became clear. Then he took the coordinates of the solar system and proceeded to start activating a new wormhole. Unlike boom tubes that were so precise that they could open anywhere regardless, the warp system of Almaric spaceships could only narrow it down to planetary systems. I need to tell the Guardians to try getting closer with Almaric. Green Lantern stared at the screen out of curiosity. Can you open the wormhole to Rao system, Krypton's homeworld? RLD. Naruto turned his eyes from the control panel and looked at Superman's face searchingly. He made a humming noise as he thought, I do have enough fuel to go to Krypton and then to Earth, but I won't have enough to leave the Earth after that. You can refuel on Earth on our watchtower, Superman said. As I told you, we are capable of space travel nowadays. Me flying all the way here from Earth is proof of that. You guys can really travel to outer space on your own. Naruto asked. Well, yeah, Superman just said he did it. Green Lantern responded that he's not human, it could be a Kryptonian vehicle or something. Gee, like that we can. Naruto. Green Arrow said, I haven't gone out myself, but most of us have. Nice. You know, the last time I did it was to fight a genocidal alien. Considering the stuff we've done too, I actually believe you. Black Canary said she'd seen more absurd stuff than that. There was no reason for Naruto to actually listen to Superman's wishes. After all, he had already helped him more than enough by freeing him from the preserver's cage and also giving him a ride back home, but for some reason he felt a peculiar feeling of kinship with him. The Gata really knew what he was talking about. Naruto nodded. He really did. The older Naruto got, the more he agreed with Uzumaki Nagato's beliefs that people truly empathized and understood each other only after they felt the same pain. It was the same in this case. Although he had nothing to gain from it, Naruto decided to do Superman this favor because he felt that they were the same, the last of their kind. Burning his attention back to the control panel of the ship, the interstellar map zoomed out and then he wrote Krypton in the search bar. Then the map of the Rao system appeared on the screen. After typing in a few more commands, the space star Ted to crack in a wormhole appeared a short distance in front of the ship. Destination Rao system Krypton. After the last sentence, the screen disappeared. That's the end. What's on Krypton anyways? Naruto asks Superman. I thought everyone was dead. Superman rubbed his chin. Well, I found my cousin there. She's doing quite well now too. I wish I could meet her, Naruto said, getting a suspicious look from the Kryptonian. Do you all look the same? No, we look different. In fact, you wouldn't believe we were related at all if you saw her. After a moment's silence, Naruto gave the man the book. You're reading the next chapter. I've got to talk with Flash and the Lantern Guy and Wonder Woman too. Kakashi joined in and asked quietly. Naruto gave him a mortified look. I saw how you looked at her. I'm happy. Really, you're actually interested in females. They just happen to be older women. You're a man of culture. Superman didn't say anything. He had no idea how much older she was. I've always been interested in females. Damn it, I've just had more things to do than go dating everyone I saw. They moved away from the arguing duo to Wonder Woman, who was staring at the blonde. Something wrong, Diana? No, I'm just waiting to talk with Naruto, she said. The cash. He brought out his orange book and began to reread the work pages as everyone got up to talk with each other. While almost everyone, the blonde couple, remained joined at the hip and just talked with each other, while Gar and the green man sat in silence out of the corner of He saw Wonder Woman approach Naruto and chuckled, at least that saved Naruto the stress of figuring out how to get closer to her. He still couldn't believe the boy liked older women. Poor Hinata, she never stood a chance not talking with anyone. The cash, she looked up to see the armored man stand. Next to him. He had heard the man approaching but hoped he was going to just pass him by. Apparently not. Ah, Batman, he greeted the man. You're talking with me now, aren't you? I have a few questions for you. Batman said, I don't know what's under my mask. Lady Tsunade's bust size is 106 centimeters. The dark circles under Gar's eyes aren't makeup, they're eye bags. And no, Naruto's whisker marks aren't whiskers, they're just marks. Kakashi smiled widely. Batman didn't acknowledge the ninja's words, saved for narrowing his eyes. Where were you all when the portal took you? I wouldn't know. Kakashi shrugged. And if it's the portal you're worried about, you're better off asking Naruto. He's the space-time enthusiast among us. Do you think he could have anything to do with method? Maybe an experiment gone wrong. Batman pressed. I wouldn't know that either. Takashi shrugged again. And like I said the first time, you're off asking Naruto. These occupied. The cashier looked at his former student who was making wild gestures at Wonder Woman. He wasn't sure what the boy was talking about, but it seemed to amuse the woman a lot. Good for him then. It's best you wait for him to finish. Kakashi said he was out in the wilds when all this happened. I thought you didn't know where anyone else was. Batman's eyes narrowed. They said he was in a forest when he arrived here. Kakashi flipped to another page. Awfully convenient. Life doesn't always have to be hard. Batman, what about you? Takashi blinked. Where were you? What were you doing? What I'm doing now. Kakashi raised his book up. I can tell you're not really here to ask about the portal. What are you really here for? Batman, seeing that he'd been found out, switched topics. You lied about being in the military. Why? I am in the military. I'd give you my identification number, but I doubt it'd be meaningful to you. Kakashi said. Batman ignored that. Your ninjas aren't you? What makes you think that? Kakashi frowned. Your ninjas, all of you. I didn't get to look at your pouch as well, but I can recognize the outline of a kunai's ring on the flap. Batman said. Who and I are farmers too. Kakashi retorted. If you know your tools well, you'd know that kunai with ring dryers were made with the purpose of tying smoke bombs to them, and so they'd be able to stab into whatever surface they got thrown at. Farmers did that so they could tie ropes around the ring to pull out root crops easier. Kakashi flipped to the next page. Are you by any chance looking to become a farmer? I'd ask Naruto for advice instead. He's not one, but he gardens a lot. Batman, seeing that he'd get no admission from the silver-haired man, went silent. Why exactly are you adamant on knowing what we are? It's not going to help you even if you did. Kakashi asked the man. It's better to know what we're up against just in case. Batman replied bluntly. Though you don't trust us? Kakashi asked innocently. Trust isn't a luxury I can afford. You've probably been waiting weeks to say that line, haven't you? He chuckled. I like that. I think I'll stitch it onto a shirt when I get home. You're avoiding the conversation. If we were going to attack you, we'd have done it the moment you all dropped here. Kakashi deadpanned. And what would we gain from killing you? To your clothes, or you could just be waiting for all this to be over so you see and catch us off guard. You all have your guards down now, don't you? Now would be as good a time as any to signal the rest to start the attack that we planned against a group that we've never known before and didn't expect to come here, even though that group's been with us since the moment they arrived. And we haven't spoken to each other since then. I can't say I don't trust you not to have figured out a way to communicate without words. Batman continued undeterred. And you shielded your minds for Manhunter the Cash. He knew something was wrong when the other group members would occasionally become distant during the course of Naruto's reading. They were all probably telepathically linked via the Green One and were sharing their suspicions. This Batman fellow could have been the one they elected to voice them out, and what let him just enter all our minds to establish trust? He snorted. It's better than remaining suspicious to the rest of us for the remainder of the time here, and we might be here for a while, not forever. Your mistake is assuming that your opinion has any importance to us, and it means even less since we won't be seeing each other again after this. The Kashi closed his bow okay with a sigh and stared at the superhero. Now that it didn't seem like there would be any fighting, he didn't bother hiding his scrutinizing gaze. After a while he spoke again. But then again, I doubt you're doing any of this because you're concerned for your people's well-being. I think you're really Oing it because you can't handle not knowing about us. We're unknowns and you don't like it. The most rational fear is the fear of the unknown. In your case there is no fear, Batman. That doesn't mean I can't be cautious of you. Being cautious is a good thing, Batman. It keeps people alive. What you're doing now isn't. And what am I doing? The Kashi rolled his eyes, acting on baseless paranoia and assuming you're entitled to answer simply because you don't know us. We don't know you either, and you haven't seen any of us interrogating your own. It's not that we can't or that we aren't curious or cautious. It's that we sincerely don't care what kind of people you are, so long as you don't take up arms against us. And I can tell most of your own are the same, so it leaves only you. You're probably used to finding out about the things you want to know, but real life wouldn't be real life if you always got yo. Way you can't always be one step ahead, Batman. The sooner you accept that, the better your life's going to be. And don't take this the wrong way, but if you keep up like this, you'll only end up making enemies of people who could have been valuable allies like you. We're not seeing any of you after T's place. So no, Kakashi smiled. I've got to say, you even made me give a speech. I haven't said this much at once since my promotion. Don't worry, we're not attacking any of you. We don't know that you don't know that. Kakashi corrected. This conversation has been as bland as I thought it'd be, so I'd like to focus on my book now. If the desire to gather unimportant information still hasn't left you, feel free to ask anyone who's not me. That man frowned at the giggling man, who looked to have forgotten about him entirely. It was clear any further attempts would bring about the same outcome or cause the man and possibly the others to become hostile against him. He turned to look at the blonde woman who was currently in a conversation with Superman and decided he'd approach her later. His eyes went to the Reddit, who sat quietly, and he neared the boy. Georgia, I'm not speaking with you. Batman. Gara cut him off. Batman frowned. I just leave. His frown deepened when he felt something wrap itself around his ankle and tighten hard enough to slightly crush the armor. He looked down at what it was. Sand. He looked back up at the boy, who fixed him with an unblinking stare and got the message. He nodded and the sand went away from his leg before disappearing into something he couldn't see. He can manipulate sand, possibly earth in general. The sand reeked of stale blood. Naruto can use wind, possibly, as was shown in the book, most likely with lethal intent. I don't know about the others, but they're most likely the same. He thought as he walked away, what kind of people are these? They couldn't act like they weren't a threat. They very much were. Why couldn't the others see this? These people weren't half as nice as they made themselves look. They glanced at Naruto, who leaned on the wall as he listened to Wonder Woman talk and tried to ignore the unpleasant feeling in his gut. They'd slip up eventually and show their true colors. It was just a matter of waiting, and he was a very patient man. So you're from an island of warrior women? Indeed, that all the men leave or something. We don't allow men on the island. Strange, but it's not new. There's a place in my world called the Natashiko village. They don't exactly have a no-men policy, but they don't allow any man that enters to leave unless he fights, so all he has to do is fight. Wonder Woman asked, well, not just that. If he wins, he'll have to marry the woman who challenged him and can only leave after getting her pregnant. Wonder Woman snorted at that. That would go horribly on the Mysteria. The only man who knew the island existed before Steve were gods, and they'd be ecstatic to know that they could bet all the Amazons they wanted, so long as they defeated them first, and if he loses, she'll kill him. It's a fight to the death. He's also free to go if he kills her, but if he spares her, that's when the marriage and impregnation option comes in. And you encountered one of those women, that one that was searching for you. Wonder Woman gave him a curious look. Yeah, her name was Shizuka. She was a pretty nice person. Naruto smiled wistfully at the memory of the green-eyed girl. He'd have to see how she was doing one of these days. She tried to kill you. She was just following customs, and we came to an understanding afterwards. The abetted and impregnated her. Wonder Woman asked, ca. Using Naruto to sputter, I knew it. I did not. There was another guy she still liked even though he was dead, so even though she lost, it was obvious she didn't want some random guy knocking her up. Naruto defended himself. Considering she sought you out to challenge, I doubt she considered you a random guy. Wonder Woman said Shizuka hadn't even known who he was at the time. All she knew was that she had to challenge Juris student, and it just happened to be him. For all the good it did her, she gained nothing from the fight other than a bruised ego and the motivation to change her village. Hopefully She succeeded. I'm surprised you didn't try. Was she not up to your standards? Wonder Woman asked. Though she was, but if I did, I'd have to marry her. He hated not to do it, but it was better to abstain than get roped into a situation you weren't ready for just because you wanted to get laid. Diana smirk. Ed, do you have any other tales like this one to share? Oh, he's got more. Kakashi cut in, idly reading from an orange book. There's Shana Maru Haruna Koyuki. Shut up, shut up. Naruto pushed the man away. He couldn't have Wonder Woman thinking he was some sort of guy who slept around, you know, quite a lot of Omen, don't you? The woman in question asked. Naruto was a good person from what she could tell, and she didn't plan on judging him for his vices so long as they weren't depraved or harmful. Bear, let's get back to your island. Naruto dodged the question. So you've got nothing but women. How do you manage to keep it a woman-only place, especially if you still have children? Wonder Woman snorted at the obvious diversion but answered nonetheless. I haven't really asked about it myself. It's been like that centuries before me, and since I was little she had never really put much thought into why they only had women on the Mysteria. She had never even seen a real man until Steve crashed on the island. You should. Wonder Woman. Naruto said there's no harm in asking questions about things that seem unusual. Even the ones that are usual should still be questioned. If you don't understand them, perhaps I'll ask my other the next time I go back. Wonder Woman rubbed her chin. I don't think I should keep you any longer. You wanted to speak with the Flash and Green Lantern, didn't you? Verida waved her off. They're not going anywhere. Besides, you're good company. I don't meet people who like to talk like you do. I imagined I'd be boring for someone your age. Wonder Woman raised an eyebrow. I've dealt with teenagers before, and our topics of interest rarely ever align well. I've always been different. I never fit in with the rest. Naruto scratched the back of his head. He fit in even less after the war. Most people he used to know were either nauseatingly respectful to him or purposely rude, an attempt to remind him that he was still one of them, or reassured themselves that he wasn't as high up as he was said to be. He'd attended the birthday party of one of his former classmates as a guest of honor, and the man decided a good way of reminiscing about the past was to tell all the guests about him being the dead last that everyone was allowed to bully. If he wasn't sure doing so would take the idiot's head clean off, he'd have punched him in the face. He, however, found his details in using the connections he had increased the taxation on his business and properties as well as the bills for his amenities. The man went broke in a few months. I find that hard to believe. Wonder Woman snorted. I haven't known you for a while, but you seem like a social person to me. Oh, I am very much so. I don't want to sound egotistical, but I am the life of the party, but finding a person fun doesn't mean you're friends. That's understandable. R approached the two and tapped Naruto on the shoulder. My apologies for interrupting you two, but I need to talk with Naruto. It's all right, I'm still here. Wonder Woman shrugged. We'll continue this later. Arito asked the woman as he walked away. Of course she smiled at him. He worked fast, Gaara remarked when they were out of earshot. Naruto blinked. What, you never talk that much with people? You don't take a shine to you like her? She's nice, yeah, good conversationalist too, if you can get past how she's sounds a lot older than she looks sometimes. Naruto nodded. I think you see her in a romantic light. Gaara gave him a small smile. All right, you're my age, at least talk that way. And no, I'm not planning to date her. We just met. I don't think it's a good idea. Burrito frowned. Why not? If I was planning to date her, that is because it's highly unlikely that you two will ever meet after this. Naruto, I know that. Gaara Naruto's side, but she's special. I don't know why, but I've been drawn to her since she arrived here. It's strange, but I can't help it. I can't say I understand what you're talking about, Naruto, but I am just concerned about you. It wouldn't do if you start something that lend on a short notice. Gaara patted him on the shoulder. Batman tried to interrogate Haddock. Why? Naruto asked. It's not like anything he finds out is going to be of any use to him. He's paranoid, nothing more. I wouldn't put it past him to try using underhanded methods like agitating you into giving away what you wouldn't, so be careful. Thanks, Gaara. Naruto nodded. Before I forget, I got the plan for the aqueduct from Tizuna before going to River County. Did he get the scaling right? It's going to be going from River County to Suna. I still Say you should have tested the waters in river country first. I heard many of the rivers are infested with parasitic worms. We don't really have many options. Naruto, we can't keep purchasing water from other countries. We're still rebuilding our economy. Gaara's side. I told you I could help you get permis. Sion from Koyuki to let it run all the way down to Spring Country, but the costs of building it would be too high. I also told you to let me handle that. Nobody has to know. It's not an officially funded project. We're still keeping mute on the fact that you're building an aqueduct. Naruto Superman joined in the conversation. I think it's best we start reading now though. Alright, but why are you telling me I'm not the one reading? I just wanted to let you two know the rest are seated again. Besides, we're reading about you. It feels a lot more uncomfortable now that I remember that. Naruto muttered. Altern 8 self or not, it didn't change the fact that it was still him and everyone got to know his thoughts. Superman shrugged sympathetically and went to get seated, leaving the two friends alone again. Well, back to it, Naruto said. Indeed, pay Naruto, we still haven't gotten to really talk about the portal hop. You haven't forgotten? Flash greeted the boy as he sat behind him. Hell no, Naruto shook his head. I just got a little sidetracked. Yeah, you and Wonder Woman were very sidetracked. The Crimson Speedster gave Naruto a teasing smile. Should I get her to come sit next to you? That'd be nice. It's cool. Naruto refused. Besides, we get to talk as Superman reads without interrupting the man. Yeah, this would be better if Pharaoh were here too. He's really cool too if he detaches himself from Canary before the book's read to the end. I'll find out. No, Naruto glanced at the two lovers, but then I can't really blame Hi M for not doing so. I keep my eyes away. If I were you. He tends to go psycho for her. Sometimes he catches you staring. That's an instant wrong foot. I think I can get away with admiring a hot person. Flash, besides, I'd be bummed too if someone tried snatching my partner. Naruto defended. That's not cool. Not one bit through that. Flash nodded. And you don't have much ground on which to complain about me staring. I saw you staring at Granny's boobs. Naruto accused the man. I have the same as you. Naruto, nobody's boobs should grow that big. Besides, I'm married happily. At that, Flash sputtered. Why do you call her Granny anyways? She doesn't look a day over 30. Naruto wins. Does a bottle cork hit him on the head? Apparently Tsunade had heard everything they were saying. Hey Superman. Starting. Flash hastily looked up as the screen appeared again just as Superman opened the book. Chapter 2. Argo. Superman. Pause. D. Butsunargo. Naruto asked. Superman's voice was heavy. It was one of the 3 principal city-states on Krypton. The last time I went to the planet to search for survivors, Argo was the only place still standing, albeit barely. Though Naruto frowned, unsure of what to say. He suddenly felt a bit guilty for never going back to Yuzashiojica. Sure, he wasn't likely to find anything other than ruins and maybe a few human remains, but it's the thought that counts. It's also where I found my cousin Supergirl, so it's not all that bad. Superman continued, smiling slightly. She'd have loved to be here. She's the adventurous one out of the two of us, always wanting to meet new people, see new places. Their cousin destroyed $50,000 worth of equipment. Batman spoke out. For God's sake, Batman. Superman groaned. I told you I'll pay you back with the reporter's salary. Batman scoffed quietly, although Superman eared it clearly. The S with a reporter's salary. The Kryptonian huffed. Hey, I don't know what you two are talking about, but if you miss her that much, don't worry, you might see her here if the portal is still running wild in your world. Naruto gave him a thumbs up, only realizing how bad that sounded after saying it all. The superheroes looked worried at the thought. What if the portal was still running amok? If it took all the heroes, it'd be the anarchy all over the world. The Kashi coughed awkwardly. What a depressing way to start the story. Through the thick windows of the spaceship's cockpit, an enormous red star could be seen. It was Rao, a red supergiant. All the ninjas looked amazed. Wow, Naruto whispered. That's what a star looks like up close. Both are smaller though. Supergiants are the largest class of stars. Green Lantern getting Naruto to look at him, but save for the differing colors and surface patterns caused by different wavelengths, velocities and amplitudes of radiation. They pretty much like that. I don't understand half of what you just said, but you're going to explain it to me after this, Naruto said excitedly. He'd have to talk with Kurama about going back out to space. He had to see Eve Writhing if you think that's amazing, wait till you see galaxies, black holes, white holes, nebulas, star clusters and supernovas. Green Lantern smirked at the boy. He wasn't sure if a lantern ring would consider him worthy, but his desire to learn and explore alone would get him an instant approval from the Guardians to join the research group's. Supergiants were the largest type of stars that could be found in the universe, just as you said, Tsunaday told Green Lantern, who nodded. Well, yeah, all the knowledge in the universe in this head, the man bragged. I knew it was all the ring's work. Black Canary snick. I said in his head, not the ring. The man frowned at her. Let's not start this again. Green Arrow stopped them both from starting the same back and forth. They always had the one saving grace for the planets orbiting it was that red stars were not as hot as yellow stars, let alone blue stars. I don't think there's any planet with a blue sun. Is there? Superman rubbed his chin. Is there? Lantern, there's a few, but they're further away from the sun than Pluto is from yours. It doesn't help much though, they're still hotter than Venus. That sounds scorching. Green Arrow grimaced. He wasn't a big fan of hot places. The only reason he even went to beaches at all was because he got to see Dinah in a bikini, and she sometimes, him into changing rooms when she was feeling bold. You have no idea. Green Lantern shook his head. I had to retrieve the core from one of those planets and nearly died doing so. I literally caught fire the moment I entered the atmosphere. Nasty way to go. Burrito nodded in agreement. The memories of his clones who met fiery ends gave him a good feel of the experience. Come to think of it, he had many memories of dying in painful, often messy ways. Maybe he should start using clumsy SS. Nevertheless, the intelligent life forms in the Rao system had still perished in the end. Superman sighed dejectedly. Martian Manhunter looked pained too as his mind went back to his own world. As the Almeration spaceship flew towards the area that Krypton used to orbit, they saw a very large number of asteroids glowing with a dark green light littering the space. Chunks of matter starting from sizes of several hundred feet to even tens of miles, where all that remained of planet Krypton and its moons. The Kashi stared at the planet. He knew it was a dead one, but it's still unreal. How did rocks get in S? Pace. Naruto looked confused. They're called asteroids and they're the residue from when planets were formed. Flash explained, although some are the remains of planets. Verito nodded. Thanks, no problem bud, but why are they glowing? Gara asked. Kryptonite. Superman's eyes narrowed. There's kryptonite on them. Oh wonder it's so common. Green Lantern exclaimed. There's a whole asteroid belt's worth of it, and I can bet that your high-speed exit from Krypton was enough to get some of them moving in the direction of Earth. Superman couldn't think of a proper response for the man. How hadn't he noticed this last me if he had taken care of it? Maybe not every villain, if any of them, would be able to get their hands on the radioactive crystal. Maybe Lex would be normal by now, but civilizations as powerful as Krypton are wiped out in a single day. It makes you realize how fragile and insignificant our lives are. No matter what great accomplishments one has in life, in front of nature we are nothing but specks of dust. Naruto said. Everyone nodded in agreement. In the end, achievements, titles and ranking were just worldly possessions. In the end, it was the same death that claimed the poor that claimed the rich. Their bodies decayed the same way, and their works in life would be of no benefit to them in death. Burrito's side. Connecting with nature had driven the point in for him even further. The world didn't mourn or celebrate anyone's passing, not even Jiraiya, who had been the only sage for decades, or Madara. Who had damaged the landscape for miles. It simply claimed their bodies. Nobody's death truly meant anything. Life goes on. It was also part of why he never killed people he didn't have to. In the eyes of the world, killing people was the same as sparing them. Both were equally inconsequential in the end. One woman felt something similar. She'd been exposed to the fragility of life early in her life and learned firsthand how easily it could be snuffed out permanently. Consequently, she developed a greater appreciation for life, the most only taking it when she had no other conceivable option. Her sisters considered her soft-hearted for it, but didn't dare say it to her face. She was still a fearsome warrior. After all, this facial express question could not be seen because of the mask he was wearing, but his voice was subdued, melancholic. Have you been here before? I mean on Krypton. Superman, who had been Alent until then asked unless the other me wanted to scavenge something from the world. I doubted. Naruto commented, having already gotten over the moment of sobriety. Yes, roughly 4 decades ago, to get my reward for completing a bounty. It wasn't long before it blew up. Now that I think of it, it came as a shock for many beings in the entire galaxy when Krypton was destroyed. Though he did. Naruto blinked. He actually went to Krypton before it got destroyed. Flash looked surprised. No wonder he looked so sad. It's like going to a fun place a few years ago and then going back there years later only to find a demolished building where it used to be. That surprisingly understandable. Green Lantern said, fearing him speak about his homeworld. Superman was listening with rapt attention. You may or may not know this, but even today, dozens of years after Krypton's destruction, their technology and their relics still fetch a very high price on the legal and black markets alike. It goes to show how advanced they had been for their tech to have not become outdated even after all these years. Superman looked irritated at the reminder he'd been attacked once in space by a group of pirates using Kryptonian technology they got off the black market. He's not wrong. Many people would still pay a fortune for anything Kryptonian, no matter how small or useless looking. Green Lantern said, we once busted a guy involved in an illegal trade ring specifically for Kryptonian technology. He had dozens of weapons and VICLE parts in his warehouse. We estimated the wharf to be at least 100 million credits in dollars. What would that be? Flash asked. Credits are the only universally accepted currency, and while they have the lowest exchange rate, I'd still say it would be about 400 to a billion in dollars. Well, Gray An Arrow whistled. He could afford Kryptonian technology. Then don't think about it. Robin Hood Black Canary shut him down. You're a handful already without alien tech. Come on babe, think about it. Me with an S on my chest, running through the rooftops. No flying through the skies in my alien jetpack. K and my Gatling bow sounds like a nightmare. She chuckled. Let's leave the S business to Superman. Yeah, it's not an S, it's my people's symbol for hope. Superman said that hope starts with an H. Flash pointed out. Superman ignored the man and kept reading. Hence stopped wondering, though, how could a civilization as technologically advanced as them die out in such a dumb way? Do you think they should have easily managed to detect that something was wrong with the planet's core and at least escape, if not outright solve it? This whole situation smells fishy to me, and not just me. Anyone with a working brain would think something else happened behind the scenes. It's true, Tsunade said. If they were as advanced as you say they were, how couldn't they tell their world was dying unless it was triggered by something or someone? Kakashi said, or someone outright destroyed it. Gaara put in his own point. Superman clenched his fists at his words. You're right, someone orchestrated everything. My father was one of the leading scientists on Krypton, and he had warned everyone that the planet was going to explode, but nobody in the government wanted to believe him and the results of his research. Instead, they chose to listen to the corrupted AI that they had created. Brainiac, I don't see the point in trying to ignore something like that. Naruto shook his head. Even if it sounds absurd, it's better to look into it and be sure the man's just lying or crazy than just not believing. I agree, Martian Manhunter said. Investigation is more profitable than skepticism. They probably just didn't want to cause mass panic. Nothing drives people mad better than the knowledge that they're all going to die, Green Lantern said, or they wanted to preserve their image and keep getting money. Batman joined in. Panic. Masses can't work to gather revenue. The fact that they didn't flee before everything happened means you're both wrong, Tsunade said. Nobody believed the man. That's it. If they didn't want to cause a mass panic, they'd have taken steps to evacuate everyone quickly or prevent the disaster, and if they were after the money alone, they'd have fled before anything happened. Wonder Woman agreed with the woman, and it's kind of all over again. Flash shook his head in an attempt to lighten the mood. Green Arrow snorted, getting the reference. Skynet. Naruto spoke slowly. Flash gave him a pitying look. You poor unenlightened soul. But by the time they finally realized that Brainiac had been lying to them all along, it was too late. As far as I know, besides the criminals trapped in the Phantom Zone, I'm the last Kryptonian. My father sent me on a rocket as a baby to Earth minutes before the collapse. A short video is all I have left. My parents' memory burrito patted the summer man on the shoulder. Considering your parents saved your life rather than their own, I'd say they loved you very much and believed you would turn out better than they would if they had been in your place. Let that push you, Superman. Their memory shouldn't Saint be a source of sadness to you, Superman. It should also be a source of drive. Let their memories give you drive. Let the knowledge that they loved you enough to die in your place drive you to become what they believed you could be, what they died for, so you could become what they wanted you to be. Become more than that, go beyond their expertise station so that when you're able to meet them in the afterlife you'll be able to face them with pride because you know they didn't die for nothing. Be that man, Superman. Honor them with your life so you can face them in death with your head held high. Thanks, Naruto. Superman gave him a small smile. It's all right. Besides, you may be the last Kryptonian, but you're not alone. If you've got your team, your cousin, and a bunch of other people I don't know. Naruto smiled. They had to admit the man's parents sounded very nice to make a recording for him, probably just so he wouldn't grow up without knowing who they were. He was sure his own would have done the same if they had the time, but they hadn't. All he had were the memories of meeting them in the SEAL and his father during the war. Diana stared at the boy. Normal people didn't end their speeches by talking about death and didn't start without offering their sympathies, but the boy did, both encouraging words. They were, "We'll be talking a lot more, Naruto." She thought, "I want to know what would make you speak the way you did. Wow, you practiced that speech in the mirror every morning." Green Lantern snickered, knowing it just came to his mind. Kakashi said he's always been good at speeches, but it's speeches. Green Arrow hummed, "Hey Naruto, do you draw? You look like a blonde guy." Fox Flash cut in, "Don't get started on that. Think about it, Flash. He's good at speeches and he's been to prison. What exactly is going on?" Tsunade asked Wonder Woman, who shrugged. "I think they're talking about a dictator. I'm not too conversant with history myself. It's funny because we have a dictatorial rule too." Kakashi chuckled, "And Naruto was once considered a candidate." Green Arrow said, "I can't believe you." Flash shook his head. Boruto stared at the two, feeling lost due to his upbringing. Superman was a very kind and pure-hearted man, one that would not willingly hurt even a fly. However, if there was someone he wanted to destroy with every fiber of his being, that was Brainiac. Superman's eyes darkened. His encounters with Brainiac were few, but as much as he hated to admit it, he enjoyed it every time he got to tear the Ice Vessel apart. The god of evil Darkseid was a close second too. Nevertheless, that was easier said than done. Sounds like one hell of a guy. Kakashi chuckled nervously. He'd lost his life fighting a self-proclaimed god, and here was a bona fide god who was so evil he lorded over the very concept. These a lot worse up close. Green Lantern shuddered. The god had broken almost all his bones and all he did was swat him like a fly. He didn't even look in his direction as he did it. "We did tell you not to rush in," Batman said. "Naruto, I'm hungry," QB said. All of a sudden the ninjas became attentive as the QB showed on the screen. Wonder Woman and Naruto smiled when they saw him, and just like that the solemn mood from before was completely broken. Naruto's voice sounded helpless when he spoke next. "Seriously, Kurama T. He QB has a name?" Kakashi looked surprised, as did Tsunade. Verito felt thankful that Kurama wasn't awake. He'd be pissed that everyone got to find out his name so easily. To a degree he was too. It took him battling his own self and engaging the tailed beast in the chakra tug of war before Kurama decided he was alright enough to know his name, but for the rest all it took was reading a line on the book. "Well, cat's out of the bag," he sighed. "I wouldn't say it casually though. He's mellowed out a lot, but he won't think twice about biting your heads off if he hears you saying it." "The QB has a name?" Tsunade still couldn't believe it. "What, did you think he was a mindless creature of destruction?" Naruto frowned. "He was actually pretty alright with people until Madara got to him and the first Hokage decided to capture him and the others instead of letting them roam free like they always had." Tsunade owned at the memory of her grandfather. She had a lot of love for the man, but she had to admit that was perhaps his most foolish action in his lifetime. He'd introduced a new and devastating method of warfare and an asinine attempt at brokering peace. He ate 3 hours ago. "Have some patience, you can That there is nothing edible around, but then his words trailed off and he turned his head towards Superman. Superman sent a nervous glance at Naruto, who grinned to the Leotum. Had his canines always looked that sharp? See, this is why you keep a weapon happen on you. Green Arrow chuckled, keep them out. Oh. Arms range. I'm not talking about seat belts when I say that I'm strapped. Flash grinned, I'm not talking about the bike when I say I've got the chopper. Green Arrow followed, I call my gun the KKK because it hates night. Green Lantern got cut off by an alarm. Flash, who screamed. Black Canary rolled her eyes. Rap music. Ugh, don't worry, Naruto isn't a cannibal. Kakashi assured the man he might like to swallow live animals whole, but he's never eaten a person before. Everyone gave Naruto a strange look. The boy in question sighed, damn it, Hitachi. Coincidentally, QB also turned his head and licked his whiskers as he looked at Superman with a hungry look in his eyes. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with this. Superman stared at the book. I'm stuck on a ship with two potential cannibals. Garam is not the same species as you, so he's not a cannibal. Naruto reasoned with him. That didn't comfort Superman. And you, I mean, you're not human. Oh my god. Superman looked horrified. I'm just joking. Naruto left. Well, his genetic code is different from humans. He's only human in appearance. Green Lantern pointed out. Okay, hear me out. Red Superman. Batman's sighed. The chill traveled down Superman's spine and he unconsciously stepped back inwardly, starting to become alarmed. Only 3 hours had passed since he left the Preserver's ship and he had been nowhere close to a yellow sun to recover his strength. Because of that, he was still severely weakened compared to his usual self. Their bodies strange, Naruto said. Red suns weaken you, but yellow suns empower you. Superman nodded. Yes, it's because of the radiation. Burrito rubbed his chin. What would happen if you were under blue sun? Then he had been under a blue sun once. It had left him feeling as if he could take on all of apocalypse on his own. It's like a yellow sun, but far, far more empowering. Burrito gave him an envious look. The best he could do with the sun was use it to heal and energize himself in sage mode, which was the closest thing to photosynthesis a human could achieve. As Superman was bracing himself for what could be a battle for his life, the fox started snickering like a hyena. I'm just kidding. After he stopped laughing, QB asked, as though it just came to his mind, by the way, can you Kryptonians regrow your limbs if you were to lose an arm or leg? I don't know and I'm not interested in finding out. Superman ignored the curious look sent his way. You say like they'd even be able to get past your skin? Green Lantern rolled his eyes. These got tough skin? Naruto asked. Tough? Try impenetrable. Burrito whistled. You're really something. Superman hot eyes. Impenetrable skin, flight, absorbing energy from the sun. Is there anything you can't do? It's not hot eyes. Superman ignored Flash's muttered pause. It's heat vision. I can fire out the solar energy in my body through my eyes in the form of beams. Do you think you can do it now? Naruto asked. Nodded. Me just fire a quick beam out into the distance. Superman shrugged and his eyes glowed red before two thin beams escaped his eyes and disappeared into the distance. Man, that's hot as Naruto fans himself. Do you really shoot that at people? I felt like I was standing next to a furnace. It's usually like that. Superman smiled sheepishly. Most people don't stand near me while I'm using it for the same reason, and no, I don't it on people, at least not the ones who can't take it. I'd hate to meet the people who can. Naruto said he was probably one of them, but he could tell the man had barely put anything into those beams. He wasn't sure he could survive a fully powered one. The real meaning was not lost to Superman, but before he could reply, Naruto grabbed QP by the scruff of his neck and brought him down from his right shoulder in his lap. I can't believe you did that to the QB. Kakashi said this was the same being that nearly reduced Kano had to rubble in one night. Stop teasing the poor boy, he said with a chuck of land. In the palm of his other hand a glowing sphere of light blue energy took shape. Come tell me what flavor you want this time. Batman's eyes narrowed at the screen. What's that? The glowing sphere. Naruto gave him a Dalek. I think we're both seeing the same thing. It's clear, really a power. Batman said. What does it do? It's obviously being used to feed a hungry animal. Batman. Flash said. I wouldn't say it's got any destructive properties if it's edible, even if it's just energy. Exactly. Naruto nodded. Like hell, he was talking about the Rasengan. What was with the flavors though? At the side of the Rasengan in N. Boruto's hand QB's 9 fluffy tails started wagging excitedly. Burrito sighed. Basengan. Batman asked, I'm guessing you know what it is then. It's a technique used to feed creatures capable of consuming energy. As you can see, Kakashi jumped in and formed one in his hand, slightly amazing the people who watched. Energy swirl around rapidly enough to form a sphere, a basic technique for the event where you come across them. They're usually hostile, but if you feed them they'll leave you alone. That seemed to satisfy Batman, who nodded, filing away the information and looked at the screen again. Make it spicy tea. Fox said, engulfed impatiently. He looked like a glutton. In the next moment the light blue Rasengan turned red, transforming into a ball of fire. With no further ado, QB started to bite and lick at the sphere of fire chakra with gusto, as though it was a delicious ice cream. He'd make a killing in Sir Q's Green Arrow remarked. Wonder Woman looked annoyed by his comment. No creature like that would live out its days entertaining vile people who delighted in watching the torment of animals. Look at him, isn't he adorable? Naruto cut. He is Wonder Woman. And Black Canary nodded. Naruto smiled at the former. I have a feeling Kurama is going to love you, he told her. The growl came from QB for being called adorable, but his ire did not last long because he quickly lost himself in the sauce. He does look endearing when he's not threatening to eat my limbs whole, Superman said, and the two men chuckled together. Yeah, he does, Superman had to admit. While they were laughing, an alarm rang and a notification appeared on the large screen of the computer in the control room of the ship below. A red SOS signal. A small map of the Rouse system appeared with a pulsating red dot at the very edge of it. Is there anyone, Ali? Vase, Superman asked, his voice betraying his hopes and expectations. Superman didn't let anyone speak and kept reading. He had to know what happened next. Naruto extinguished the orb of chakra in his hand, but QB growled in unhappiness and bit on his fingers. I'm going to pull his ears so hard they'll extend. An extra inch. Narita frowned, biting the fingers that fed him. The lazy and great don't do that to him, Wonder Woman warned him. Why not? He's biting the fingers that fed him. Ow, you little biting the hand that feeds you. See, still it was not the time to start a fight with a fox and instead turned his attention towards the screen. He changed the destination of the ship to the coordinate shown on the map. It's still amazing that you can easily triangulate locations like this, Kakashi remarked. Honestly, their world sounded a lot better than his. If the issues were ignored, we don't even have any prop. Maps really? Flash asked. Why not? We used to be at war pretty much all the time, Kakashi explained. The only cartographers were scouts who examined villages from vantage points and mapped out everything they saw so as to analyze it for entry points. The official map of our village was inspired by an enemy cartographer we found and killed in the Third Great War. Bam, you've had 3 great wars? Green Lantern asked. The way the man said it had sounded like a world war. Yep, the man nodded. We even had a 4th one about 2 years ago. Batman stared at the man. That we sounded a bit too personal for the ma. And to mean soldiers in general. Don't get your hopes too high. For all we know, there is no land mass at the edge of the system so far away from the star. Most likely it's a stranded ship requesting assistance, Naruto said. Stranded scavengers, Green Lantern spoke. Gotta love them, but to Superman's delight, the blonde's words were proven to be wrong. A few minutes later, when a rather small planet appeared in their view, it was gray, seemingly devoid of life, and enormous cracks littered the surface, cracks in the crust that were so large that they could be seen all the way from space. It was a dead planet. I'm guessing that's Argo, Kakashi asked. He said Argo was a city. Naruto corrected him, but they're headed towards a planet. I'll bet you 1,000 Ryo that the planet's name is Argo. I'll bet you 100,000 that it's not. Naruto smirked. Stop throwing money around so carelessly, Naruto. Tsunade roaned at him. Relax, Granny, I'm a billionaire. Flashlight. It's like everyone gets billions except me. The Cashew looked curious. Garaya's inheritance coupled with my rewards for the war, the pay for the diplomatic missions, and the new line of Itch of books, Naruto said. Do you really think I just sit still and go around doing whatever I want with my life just because I think I'll never run out of money? Batman and Green Arrow avoided gazes directed at them. Did anyone still be alive on a planet like this after such a disaster? Naruto wondered. It doesn't even look like your ship's going to survive. Earing its atmosphere, Green Lantern remarked, without a sun it's going to be cold enough to freeze red-hot metal in seconds. Well, let's hope my other self can convince Superman of that. Naruto gave the man an annoyed look that he turned away from. We have to try, even if it chances minuscule. There's still a chance that there are survivors. There's no way I'm leaving without saving them, Superman insisted vehemently. Burrito didn't say anything. To be honest, he knew he'd do the same if he were in Superman's shoes. He had always wanted to one day come to the Rao system and look for survivors. He had always hoped that maybe, just maybe, one of the colonies of Kryptonians located outside of Krypton had managed to survive somehow. Superman knew they hadn't. The only Kryptonians other than Kara that he'd met were Zod and Fiora, neither of which were peaceful people. The rest of the survivors, if there were any, probably scattered across the universe. But whereas at first he had not had the technology to do that, after he got the means to travel in space, he no longer had the leisure to do so. For example, less than 3 months ago, Imperium and his race had also tried to conquer the Earth and kill every living being honored, just like they had done to Mars 1,000 Earth years ago. He was afraid of leaving the Earth unprotected for too long. Martian Manhunter didn't show any visible reaction other than clenching his fists. Superman gave him a worried glance. I am fine, he told the Kryptonian, who hesitantly nodded. However, whether it was luck or fate, he was now in the Rao system. He would not miss the chance to save any survivors for anything in the world. When he heard his words, Naruto looked at them, mused. What can you do about it if I decided to leave? Though you may have special powers on Earth, but in his system you're just an ordinary man. You don't even have a suit to survive the temperature on that frozen planet or the lack of oxygen. You've got to consider those factors. Superman, Green Lantern chided the man. No yellow sun, no ship, no special suit. You'll die the moment you enter the planet. Superman didn't respond. He knew the man was right, but he hated the idea of just potentially leaving Kara to die. Superman became silent. He realized his mistake. The masked person in front of him was not as subordinate to listen to his orders. Please, I need your help, he said, and lowered his head. To his surprise, the blonde quickly agreed. Sure, I will help you for 40 mass units of gold. The Kashi laughed. Nice one. No, Naruto. Verito grind the other. Me sure knows his business. 40 mass units of gold. Green Lantern screeched. That's not business, that's robbery. They each. How much is that? Superman asked faintly. It's abo. Green Lantern's ring glowed brighter as it ran. Conversions $4 million. Superman glared at the blonde boy, who grinned sheepishly at him. Superman's head shot up, his eyes wide, but Verito chuckled at his reaction and the fox curled up in his lap chortled too. There is no free meal in this world. LD kid, do you think people are going to work for you just because you said please? That's true, Kakashi said. Even if he's a good person, he's in no condition to help you out of the kindness of his heart. Why not? Superman asked him annoyedly. Because he still has to maintain his own lifestyle. Wonder Woman spoke. Fuel, food, repairs, maintenance, and he's a bounty hunter. Every second he spends with you is a second he could have spent chasing after a profitable bounty, perhaps even cashed it in already. You might very well be my dream woman at this rate. No, said, surprising the woman. You understand me so well. Atman tried not to glare at the boy. The Man of Steel looked as though he could still not fully grasp the current situation. I still can't. Superman shook his head. I just cannot. You want me to pay you in gold to save innocent people's lives? Marita nodded. Naturally, it's just how our society is. Kakashi's you need money to save lives? Superman asked him incredulously. No, we won't even know people need saving if you don't tell us. After paying, of course. So you're all mercenaries? Batman asked the man. That we're soldiers who do mercenary work for the village. Kakashi shrugged. It's like that for every Yaj in the world. It's how the system is. Sounds weird, Flash admitted. Different cultures, different standards. Yours would be just as strange to us, Naruto said. And you also better not forget that I freed you from the preserver's cage and gave you a ride on my ship too, because that will cost you enough. 30 mass units of gold. Normally I should charge you for this detour trip to the Rao system as well, but I decided to do this one thing out of the kindness of my heart. Take it as a bonus on the house. Superman made an incredulous face and Naruto almost started laughing out loud when he saw the SM all bulges in his cheeks a sign of how hard he was clenching his teeth. I don't think I've ever seen you this angry before, Flash said to the Kryptonian. I think anyone would be angry when they're being extorted. Green Arrow said, boy, you're acting as if I'm robbing you now or something. I don't know what kind of environment you've grown up in, but normal people in this universe expect to be paid for their work. Of course you can choose not to pay and I'll drop your sorry butt in space right now. Superman could no longer hold back his anger. I thought you were different. I was even feeling sorry for why. Oh, I thought that you were like me, but you're just a money grubber, not that different from a highway robber. Burrito frowned. Sorry for trying to earn a living. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Superman was quick to apologize. It's not me, Superman, it's fine, you're cool. Burrito stood up from the pillow T-seat and he easygoing mood around him suddenly disappeared. I'll never get over how quickly he flips moods sometimes. Kakashi commented, I could have ignored and left you to rot in that glass cage and be on my way. I had no reason to take you on my ship and give you a ride to Earth because I have no usiness there, but I do try to help people in need if it's not too bothersome. Still, this is this and that is that. It's a good thing, Wonder Woman said, but gratitude won't keep him alive. I'm a mercenary, not a priest. I don't do charity. You think your words of gratitude will fill my stomach or buy new RTS and cover the maintenance costs for my ship, or maybe your gratitude will compensate me for potentially risking my life in an unknown place. Wake up to reality, boy. Burrito blinked. What was that last line? An uncomfortable silence for Superman was instilled after Naruto said those words. Now let's see you. The crap, are you going to pay or not? Superman sighed in defeat. He understood that he could not force his lofty ideals on other living beings that were not even from Earth, much less on a mercenary. Superman also looked to feed it. Furthermore, the man in front of him held all the cards at that moment. He and his beast were stronger than his current self, and it was their ship too, not to mention that, as Naruto said, in his current condition Superman had no way of surviving on the surface of that dead planet alone. He did not have a suit to protect himself from Rao's red radiation or from the extreme cold temperature or from the lack of oxygen. If he wanted to save whoever had sent that distress signal, he depended on Naruto. Lastly, he also owed Naruto a debt of gratitude. I don't recall you asking Lobo for anything. The Kryptonian still grumbled unhappily. He owes me a favor, Naruto said. When cash in on at the right time, it can either save my life or mean even more money. That's because Lobo had a modicum of common sense to acknowledge by himself. The daddy owed me, and yes, just one promise of his is more than enough guarantee. He's been a bounty hunter for decades and never once went back on his word or broke a contract. He may be a piece of but he does have his own standards too. It doesn't matter if people don't like you so long as they respect you, Naruto said at the same time as Wonder Woman. Fine, you win, the Kryptonian said in exasperation, and then muttered to himself, what you even need gold for is beyond me. It's not about what I need it for, it's about what I wanted for. Naruto snickered. Flash hung his head solemnly. Deep thoughts with the deep. I don't know what that is, but I like it. Naruto grinned at the man. Naruto sat back on the pilot's seat. Tent steered the ship to NTER, the cracked planet's atmosphere, for transactions at an intergalactic level. What currency do you think that people use with millions of planets and even more currencies? Do you think money is of any use? Say you give me money from Earth, where am I going to use it? Or it'll lean forward. Economics something. Jiraiya had been surprisingly gung-ho about. The man kept track of exchange rates, price hikes and crashes of every item on markets, and calculated the profits from the sales of his books himself. Begotten him hooked on it also, although he already had an edge in having had to learn to manage money in his earlier years so as not to spend the rest of the month penniless. Everyone else looked interested in the topic as well. From his words, Superman momentarily forgot how annoyed he was and became genuinely curious. He had never really asked himself that question before because he had never left the Earth until then for other reasons besides fighting against his enemies. You should try expanding your knowledge in other areas other than fighting Superman, Naruto advised. A man, a powerful fool, will only be tricked and exploited. I'll keep that in mind, Superman said. He was a reporter and an See accomplished one, but he had to admit he wasn't all that knowledgeable in many things. Growing up as a farmer's boy probably had something to do with it. Payments are made mostly with goods, usually it's stuff like advanced weaponry, spaceships, reactors, or magical artifacts, but depending on the planetary system and the position in the galaxy, gold, precious minerals, and other rare materials can be used as currency too. Hell, you can even pay with rare or powerful creatures or even slaves, anything that the other party is interested in. Of course, money is used for transactions as well, but only between ETS belonging to the same intergalactic empire. Outside of those, money is worthless, so barter is still a thing in outer space. Kakashim used. Interesting, why would they accept stuff like gold though? Green Arrow asked. Just because we have no value for the beyond cosmetics doesn't mean others will as well. El Arrow Batman said for them it could be food, fuel, anything. What about credits? Flash asked. Didn't you say it was universally accepted? Yeah, you can exchange it for other currencies or in many places simply use it to make purchases like normal money. Green Arrow asked. Not all currencies can be exchanged. Most aren't registered anywhere other than the main planet. Green Lantern said you can't take Jordanian money to anywhere other than Karna. It's not even registered in most places, and if you took it to Thagner you'd get arrested. Naruto explained all that patiently with a very light voice. It was as if their small argument from a few moments ago had never happened in the first place. He did not seem affected by it. Apparently it had not been the first time by far that someone had tried to slither their way out of paying him what they owed. That happens a lot. Kakashi chuckled. Most ended up paying anyway. The ones who tried using more violent methods to avoid pain didn't live long enough to regret their decision. So I'm asking you for gold in consideration of your origins. I can't expect someone from a backwood or planet like the Earth to pay me with a planet destroyer cannon or a mother box now. Can I? He said with a chuckle. I know Earth isn't as advanced as many places, but come on man. Flash groaned. Other me. Flash. Naruto said I'd never offend you knowingly. We're bros now. Bros. Flash cheered. Naruto landed the ship on an open space. It looked like a large plaza of a city, a ruined city covered in ice. The entire planet was covered in snow and ice. A somber expression appeared on Superman's face when he looked at the scenery outside. Vaguely he could recognize the architectural style of the buildings buried below the ice. Superman stopped reading to look at the screen. It didn't matter how many times he'd gone back to Krypton, the sight of the ruins still hit him hard. All right, I'm heading out, Naruto said with an energetic voice not exactly fitting with the desolate scene in front of them. After all, they were basically in the middle of a giant graveyard, the burial ground of an entire civilization. We can't all be grim. Naruto smiled. Someone's got to lighten up the mood. Might as well be me. You almost always do it at the worst time, Kakashi pointed out. You were joking about how Lord Third didn't want to die, but the Shinigami was bigger than him. That was to make light of a bad situation that as at his funeral I had to cheer up Konohamaru. I'm making fun of his dead grandfather. He laughed. Didn't he? Yeah, he did. Then I don't see anything wrong. Naruto folded his arms smugly. You've got a peculiar sense of humor, Wonder Woman remarked. Life's going to be bland if all we do is crack socially acceptable jokes that don't offend anyone. Wonder Woman, it's the offensive ones that are most funny. She couldn't argue with that. One of her favorite pastimes was going through memes. Before he opened the outside trapdoor of the spaceship he said, don't think about doing anything funny while I'm away. The mom and anyone besides me tries to start the engines of the ship. This bracelet over here, he pointed at the white band around his wrist, will teleport me back to the ship. It's an anti-theft system implemented on all the military ships of Almoric. We really have to get closer to the Omerations. Green Lantern said the technology those people were coming up with would be a huge boon to the Lanterns. Not been a lie, it caught me off guard too when I stole this ship. Hand ahem. Anyway, I'm going. Be a good boy and stay put until I come back. Wait, you stole the ship? Superman asked loudly. I'm stowing away on a stolen ship. If we get caught you'll be considered an accomplice. Narita laughed. We're actually going to be no good criminals, just like you said. No. Superman was between laughing and crying, not really knowing how was he supposed to react. Indignant for being suspected of being a thief and neuter, amused at Ain't treated like a naughty little kid or maybe worried that this guy stole a military ship from Almaric. He still remembered his encounter with the violent queen of I've met many weirdos in my life but this guy the first think he takes the cake. Phew, what a character. Superman muttered, I wouldn't say he ta. Kess the cake. I've met Mr. Mixoplex. Superman rubbed his chin, but yeah, he's got his unique features. The masked blonde man may not be weird on the same level of weirdness as someone like Lobo, but he gave off a feeling of instability, making one feel on edge the whole time while interacting with him through. Throughout the entire ride Superman had been secretly anxious due to how whimsical Naruto seemed to be. You say it like I'm some kind of lunatic. Naruto frowned. No offense Naruto. Superman said, just because you say no offense doesn't mean I can't be offended. I'm offended. Was he a bad guy? Well, not really, Beck. Oz, he saved Superman's and Lobo's lives. Was he a good guy? Well, he had just admitted that he robbed Almaric of one of their military ships and he also demanded a crazy expensive fee for his services. That was not the behavior of a morally upstanding guy but the behavior of a thief and an unscrupulous businessman, and Superman couldn't get a proper read on his character. 70 mass units of gold. Where the hell am I going to get so much gold from? I'll have to ask Batman for help. Once again I knew it. Batman's sighed. That's going to be $4,050,000. Wow Batman, you're rich. Naruto stare at the man. $4,050,000. I'd probably have a heart attack if I spent that much at once. Batman ignored Flash's laughter. He could already imagine Batman's patented glare boring a hole in his head or Flash making lame jokes and poking fun at him. He palmed his forehead when he felt he beginning of a headache, but then another thing came to his mind. Wait, how much is a mass unit? It depends on the planet he's weighing it on. Green Lantern said some have greater gravities than others. If you're lucky he's going to one with less gravity. Superman nodded resignedly. Batman would never let him live this down. Maybe he should listen to Lois and start accepting the offered rewards. That was not how they calculated the weight on Earth. Clearly it was an alien measuring unit. Was one mass unit equal to a pound? If that was the case then it was still okay somewhat, but what if one mass unit was equal to, say, God forbid, 1 ton? At that thought Superman's face became ugly to look at. Arg, what a scumbag. That's rude. Superman. Kakashi said he's only trying to survive. I'm very sure 40 mass units is more than enough to survive on, but he lifted it to 70. Superman didn't let up. It's not his fault that you invite him into thinking 40 mass units are rookie numbers. It did not take long for Naruto to find out where the distress signal had been sent from. With a sweep of his Sage Mode senses, all I've signatures in a radius of 50 miles were revealed. Burrito raised an eyebrow. All on a dead planet? How did he even gather energy for Sage Mode on a dead world? The thought crossed his mind that filled him with excitement. Had his other self somehow managed to absorb and use energy from space itself? All of them, better said, would be that the only one there was only one person still alive. As he walked through the ruins of the previously prosperous city he let out alongside men, women, children, animals, vehicles, buildings. Everything was buried into the eternal snow and ice. Burritos sighed, as did Superman, the latter because it was his world he was reading about. He former because he knew sensing corpses in Sage Mode wasn't a fun experience. Nevertheless he did not dally and continued walking towards the location of the life's signature. Soon he reached the ruins of what had been a rather impressive building. Upon entering he noticed that the temperature was a bit higher than outside. He followed the still relatively intact staircase and went down to the underground floors of the building. It made sense that if anyone was living in this building they would be living underground rather than on the higher floors. I can only imagine how strong your buildings to be to survive the cataclysm of this level and still not give into the elements. Tsunade said admiringly she doubted there would be any remains of Konoha whatsoever if they encountered the same situation as Krypton. Yeah, it's something all right, Flash agreed. A few moments later he reached a circular room that did not look too different from the control room of a spaceship. The moment he stepped in, a circle of light glowed on the floor and a rather blurry hologram appeared from the device in the middle of the room. It was the image of a tall but very beautiful blonde woman in her late 30s. He looked identical to a female human. Then a sad but warm voice resounded in the cold room. The mood turned gloomy as they watched a hologram, and Kala Superman muttered sorrowfully he had never gotten to meet her himself, but the memories of his father still stuck with him. Naruto quickly fiddled with a translating device at his belt to understand what she was saying. I am Kala in Z, chief physician of Argo City. 5 years ago Argo was a thriving, vibrant world, but then without warning 5 years ago our sister planet Krypton was destroyed in a giant chain of explosions. Krypton's destruction tore Argo from its orbit. The room stayed silent as they listened to the woman talk. They knew what happened to Krypton, but hearing it from the mouth of someone who had experienced it was different. It looked like the transmission was recorded 5 years after Krypton's and Argos destruction as the blonde Wom. And in the hologram spoke. One of the screens in this circular room started showing clips from when the planet was still in a pristine condition, and then the following catastrophe. The resulting devastation destroyed most of our world and sent it moving slowly, inexorably away from our sun, leaving a few desperate survivors freezing to death. There was nothing my people could do but prayer. Distress signals would be answered, but now I can wait no longer. I have taken a desperate last chance to save my surviving family. Superman hung his head. In my knowledge we are all that is left of Argo. Please help us, she said, tears streaming down her face. With that the transmission ended and the hologram disappeared. Nobody spoke. Doritos stared at the screen, feeling them all over. Superman had found his niece there, meaning nobody came to help them. They were all dead. Had this been what his clan had experienced too? Calling for allies that wouldn't arrive and praying for divine intervention while they were getting butchered. Superman tried to speak but choked. After a moment he sniffled and blinked back tears. I'm going to keep reading. Naruto sighed apathetically. It was not that he was completely stonehearted to air plight, he was just numb. Krypton and Argo were just 2 of the dozens of planets that had been destroyed during his lifetime. Probably even at that very moment another planet exploded somewhere in the vast universe. Burrito didn't say anything. It was exactly as he thought. All was inconsequential. In the end life went on. Going by his homeworld years, Naruto was 113 years old. He had traveled through the universe for 97 years. Even so he showed no more signs of growing old at all after he reached the age of 25. For all he knew he was immortal, never to die of old age. Even for you that's awfully long-lived. Tsunade muttered, still not over what she'd seen. Yeah, Naruto admitted he was sure he wouldn't even live to see 70 given how many times he'd used Kurama's chakra before they bonded. If he remembered correctly, using it ate away at his lifespan, and he was sure he'd lost years if not up to a decade of his life traveling from one corner of the known universe to the other, and witnessing all the death and destruction around him made him understand better than most people the frailty of life in that sea. Coupled with his apparent immortality made him over the years slowly detach himself emotionally from his surroundings. Why love someone if they could get killed off just like that? Why make friends too just so he could watch them grow old and die regardless? Naruto did not dwell on those depressing thoughts. For long his life was not all gloomy and dark because he had QB Kurama. It seemed like the tailed beast was in the end the only thing he would have with him. Eternal life should not be a reason to close your heart. Naruto. Wonder Woman spoke quietly. They may grow old and die, but we are able to immortalize them in our memories. But it'll only bring more grief, he argued. Perhaps, but it is that grief and the nostalgia that keeps you from falling into insanity or worse, apathy. It reminds you that you are still a person. When you fall into apathy you no longer become immortal, you are simply an animated shell. Maybe, but in the end he didn't have any of that to worry about. He knew now that even after Gaara and Kakashi and Tsunade and everyone else died, there would still be one friend who would be with him till the end of time. Kurama. He would never be alone. As though the fox knew his inner feelings, he moved closer on his right shoulder and snuggled into his neck. Naruto smiled behind his mask and brought his left hand to gently pat Cute beyond the head. In this ever-changing world where planets and even entire star systems could unexpectedly perish in less than a day, there was one constant in his face, someone that would forever be at his side. Kurama grew thick and thin. The two of them would always have each other's back. Burrito chuckled. Kurama wouldn't like to watch any of this. Walking towards the side of the room he arrived in front of 4 life capsules. 3 of them had been invaded by ice. And the people inside had become frozen corpses, but in the last capsule a person still lived. A thin girl with shoulder-length blonde hair was sleeping peacefully. She looked no older than 16. She appeared to be the daughter of the woman in the hologram. Superman whispered. Naruto looked at him curiously. Their cousin's name is Kara. Yeah, she's alive here too. The man looked overjoyed. She's alive. That seemed his happiness was infections because it seemed to lift the grayness that had covered them all. Even Naruto couldn't help but smile with him. She's beautiful, he muttered. Wonder Woman didn't kn. Why she didn't like hearing him say that. Superman liked it even less. That's my cousin we're talking about. Naruto, I'm not interested in her, I'm just saying what I see. He raised his hands disarmingly. Looks like our trip here has not been in vain, Naruto said. And now that big oath won't ab out the money he owes you either. QB grumbled, making Naruto laugh. Superman grumbled half-heartedly. He didn't appreciate being called an oath, but he had to admit he did come off as some would have won. In the beginning the yellow-red light appeared around his hand, coating it up to the middle of his forearm. The Kashi's eyes widened. What was he doing? Batman noticed the man's alarm and looked at Naruto suspiciously. It was yang chakra, unmatched in vitality. It was a chakra born mainly from his body's physical energy. He ripped the capsule's door open and his chakra-coated hand immediately touched the GIRL's head. What are you doing? Superman's head shot towards a surprised Naruto with his eyes glowing bright red. Hey, I'm healing her. That seemed to calm the man down a bit. You're healing her? How? It's yang chakra, he explained. Physical energy to create. If I'm using it on her, it means I'm healing her. Atman filed that away for later. Naruto also possessed the ability to heal through contact. The yang chakra engulfed her body and an expression of comfort appeared on the unconscious girl's face. Her pale white cheeks quickly became reddy as her blood circulation increased and she even started to show signs of waking up. You really did heal her? Superman looked amazed. She got better in seconds than she did in days. The other yang chakra, does that? Naruto shrugged. If he still had the sun seal he was sure the girl wouldn't have woken up that moment feeling as spry as she had been when she got in the Thank you. Superman shook his hand rapidly. Thank you so much. Hey, it's fine. Naruto nodded. It really is. Other me. Superman, other me. He took the young girl in his arms in a princess carry and then the yellow-red check recovered him and QB2. In the next moment the three of them vanished from the underground room, leaving only a flicker of yellow-red light in their wake. Possible teleportation. Another thing to add to the list. Batman could feel Kakashi's eyes on him but chose to focus on Naruto. Superman closed the book. That's the end of the chapter. I think we've got a lot to talk about, so we'll Ather again in an hour or two and continue. Batman, you're reading the next one? No, the Caped Crusader refused. Superman was about to speak when the book flew out of his hand and latched onto Batman's cape. The man glared at the shocked Man of Steel. Apparently I don't have much of a choice. I can't believe you can actually heal people down to a cellular level just by touching them. Green Lantern shook his head slowly. I mean, I've seen things that heal better than that, but you just touch people and they're healed. Bull Burrito snorted. Lantern would probably have a mental breakdown if he met Karen. Believe it or not, it's not going to change what already is. I get that power's yours, but you don't ever just look at yourself and wonder how is this possible. Naruto had to admit that he had done just that during the war, but learned to just roll with everything that came his way, no matter how random or absurd. The tool felt unbelievable that his life had gone from training to fight a terrorist organization to fighting reanimated corpses to fighting against a terrorist backed up by the power of a primordial being who got betrayed by the relic of the past who became the container of said primordial being and ended up turning into a goddess after a betrayal by his own subordinate that happened to be the creation of said goddess. And it all happened in nothing but a few days that wasn't even counting that he actually died and met is supposed to be a fictional character who had actually been He wanted to give everyone chakra and seal the goddess who happened to be his own mother into the very same moon that was supposed to have been orbiting the world since the beginning of time. His mother, who if she had been a trained fighter or at least a critical thinker would have made quick work of high The guy is active. Sending him across dimensions had been what got him interested in the concept of dimension travel in the first place. I just don't care all that much. Naruto shrugged. I can keep people from dying on my watch. That's good enough for me. Have you ever thought of becoming a doctor? Flash asked Naruto, who was examining the construct of the Milky Way that Green Lantern made with the ability to heal anything just by contact. You'd make a killing in the hospital and have multiple government agencies looking to capture him for examination and cloning, but he was sure Naruto could talk. Care of himself. I've never really thought of doing that. Naruto admitted. Being a medic is not really my thing. Are you sure? Doctors make good money. Just diagnose a problem, heal it, get paid, and move on to the next patient. I'm not sure he's particularly suited for the career. Kakashi chimed in. With Naruto's brand of humor, he'd probably leave them feeling worse than they were when they arrived. What do you mean by that? Naruto's eyes narrowed. I can be a doctor just fine. No, you can't. You're more into fighting people than healing them. I'm a dynamic person. I change with the times. When we get I'll start healing people for money, the cash she could own. Imagine how that would go. Naruto, clad in a lab coat, walked into the office where a woman and her daughter were waiting. So the test results came out. Naruto started. But before I say it, hey little girl, do you like to sing? The girl nodded. Was he going with this? Nice. Naruto smiled at her. Complete this for me. 30 days have september. The girl brightened up. April, June and November. You forgot one though. Naruto grinned. She frowned him. Which one? You? Naruto burst into laughter. I've been waiting to do that to someone for so long. Now high five. He raised his hand up at the glaring mother who had her wailing daughter in an embrace. After a few seconds he put his hand down slowly. Maybe Kakashi was onto something about my timing. I can cure her. By the way, don't want to listen? Well, come back soon. I'm the only one who can cure her. So it's best if you bring her back here. Well, not exactly your best option, more like your only option, since I'm literally her only chance of survival. Anyways, come back if you want her to live before the end of the month too, or at least before next month. I can't bring back the dead, at least not dead. See? Answer. Patients. Maybe I can. I've never tried to bring them back before. Your daughter is the first cancer patient I've ever had to heal. I should name this variant after her. Miyuki strain. Nice. Your bill 62,000 Rio, but it's 662 if you bring her back for healing, but if she croaks before you bring her back, I know a guy who makes coffins for as cheap as 10,000 Rio if you want her cremated. I also know a guy who will do it for a bottle of water. That's probably best to leave it to Sakura and Lady Tsunade. Kakashi ruffled Naruto's hair. You're too important to us to spend your days in a sterile building. Important? Flash asked. The Kashi perceived Batman's scent become bolder and sighed inwardly. Of course the man would be listening in. He's the reason we didn't go into famine after the war. His healing ability works with plants too. I wish we could have someone like you too. Naruto. Flash folded his RMS. Well, we do, but she's an eco-terrorist who only raises forests filled with poisonous trees and carnivorous plants. I read somewhere that they absorb excess nitrogen out of the air. Naruto tried to reason. Maybe she's trying to help you out in that aspect. If there's anything that we need to be rid of, it's carbon. Green Lantern scoffed. Global warming is going to end us before dark. Does Naruto had no idea what that was, but it was dangerous. What exactly gives out this carbon? Kakashi asked. Carbon's a byproduct of combustion. Green Lantern said everything that burns releases it, even people combust on happens when you breathe. Your lungs burn when you breathe. Tsunade, who'd been listening to them, joined in. Either the man didn't know what he was talking about or his anatomy was different from theirs. That's not burning, Flash explained. Combustion is the breaking down of chemical bonds. It's just a side effect of it in the lungs. It's the heat in breaking down, but without the fire. It's why the air you breathe out is warmer than the one in the atmosphere. Your body's giving out excess heat as well as carbon. Tsunade humped contemplatively. I'm guessing you're a doctor in your world. Pair close. Flash chuckled. I'm in forensics. What's that? She asked. It's kind of hard to define. He closed his eyes and thought, but I think the best way to say it is that we're the guys who use science to investigate crimes, run tests on whatever trace of DNA we can find, fingerprints, blood, stuff like that. Tic Kakashi made a mental note to try establishing something similar in Konoha, and we usually investigated crimes and they had the cryptology department, but the former weren't specialists and the latter specialized in decryption. Tsunade placed an arm over Flash's shoulder, causing the man to gulp when her breast pressed against him. Let's talk about your investigation methods. Green Lantern watched her leave with the man. Do you think she likes him? Because she snorted. The woman had turned down every single man who tried their luck with her, including Lord Jiraiya, who she'd known since they were Genin. If you knew her you wouldn't be asking that. Naruto looked amused. What do you mean? Green Lantern and Naruto and Kakashi looked at each other and shook their heads. Don't worry about it. Naruto waved him off. So do you think there's any way to absorb and store the energy output caused by a supernova? Martian Manhunter understood that he wasn't a very approachable person. Even the superheroes that had tried to speak with him often had stopped, put off by his quiet demeanor, stony gaze, and curt replies. Only a few, like the Flash, still insisted on trying to involve him in outings and the like, but since they had arrived here, the man like Green Lantern had been occupied by the one of the strangers. Naruto was his name, who was all too eager to learn about their world. He stared at the three men, wondering whether or not to try joining in their conversation. He doubted any of them would mind, but he had no idea what to say other than answers to whatever questions Naruto would ask him. The slight disturbance caused by someone sitting next to him made him turn to see the red-headed boy Gaara staring at the three. Also, he nodded at the boy, who nodded back and was about to go back to watching the trip. The boy spoke. Naruto is an inquisitive person. He started always wanted to learn everything. The first time he came to my village he wanted to know how we observed our hygiene in the absence of consistent water. That sounds mildly offensive, Martian Manhunter said tentatively. Gaara noticed that and shook his head. He didn't ask it to be condescending, he was just curious. He said Tamari hadn't been his understanding and gave the blonde an earful that day. I see. Martian Manhunter wasn't sure what to say. I'm sure he would appreciate it if you shared your knowledge with him as well, Gaara continued. And you? Upon the Martian's questioning look, he explained. I saw you staring at them. You look like you were wondering how to join in. I am content with where I am. I imagine you were, but there is no use in having an opportunity to be amongst people of differing backgrounds if you do not interact with them. Gaara saw it. You have made no attempts to speak with any of us either. The Martian blinked. You did not humor Batman with a conversation. Only Naruto would be able to tolerate the man's behavior. He is lucky he did not go to Lady Tsunade. She would not settle for simply ignoring him. Gaara looked at the blonde was examining some construct Green Lantern created. You have a high opinion of him, Martian Manhunter observed. If you knew him like I do you would as well. I see. The alien turned to look at Naruto, who tried to touch the glowing ring, causing Green Lantern to be enveloped in its light and float out of his reach. The feat only got an amazed look from the boy. This expression reminded him of his niece when she arrived on Earth. Everything about the world, even though primitive compared to Mars. Otter, I would like to talk with him. Gaara nodded and watched the Martian walk to Naruto, who started off by asking why he was green. He snickered, just like with Suna. The noticed Black Canary and Green Arrow engrossed in whatever conversation they were having with each other. They probably felt out of place among everyone, because even for lovers they clunked each other too much. You encourage him to talk with others, but you don't do the same. Why? Wonder Woman spoke from behind him. He looked at her, noticing how her shield looked cleaner than it had been when she first arrived. She had probably occupied herself by polishing it. I have little to gain for many of you, he said. Wonder Woman raised an eyebrow. And we then less, but it doesn't stop us from trading words with you, does it? Era stared at the woman. I guess it doesn't. Thank you then for what you made yourself someone for me to talk to. Gaara shrugged. It's better than just sitting by your lonesome. Wonder Woman idly spun her shield, and as she admired how the light highlighted certain parts of it, her mind went back to the arenas of the mystery she'd been planning to pick up from where she left off with Naruto, but Flash and Green Lantern got to him before she did, leaving her with nothing to do but polish her shield and listen to Superman and Batman argue About something she couldn't be bothered to think about. I suppose you're right, he agreed. No wonder Naruto is interested in you. What? Wonder Woman blinked. The Kashi who heard the little exchange sighed. Naruto really needed a subtler wingman. Batman had Superman notify everyone that he was ready to star. Reading and took a seat in the center. He noticed out of the corner of his eye that Naruto and Wonder Woman sat beside each other and closed his eyes briefly. She had tried getting closer to him once and he had to admit that he'd been harsh in his rejection, but he didn't like knowing that she was Tr. Yingta or had moved on to someone else, even less when that person was currently the largest known threat of all the unknowns. Arrow Canary, that's enough, he snapped at the two lovers. The next chapter is about to begin. Focus. Sheesh, bats who pissed in your coffee. Green Arrow grumbled. He's not wrong. Ow. Black Canary shrugged. We'll continue this later. Fine. The archer folded his arms. Quite the authoritarian, isn't he? Narita whispered. Wonder Woman snorted next to him. He tries, she whispered back. In fact, he's a lot better than he used to be. He was worse than this. Naruto asked. Unbelievably more than I can tell you. Wonder Woman smiled. The man was very used to being in charge, something gained from having two fresh protege, and had tried to enforce his rules on them after assuming himself to be the leader due to being the one funding their operations and giving the orders. Most of the time it had been her who reminded him that while they appreciated his help, they only obeyed him out of respect. When she beat him to the ground and pushed his head into the dirt with her foot in front of everyone, only letting him up after he begged her, the man's resentment towards her had probably been one of the reasons why he rejected her, but she'd do it again if she had to. She didn't want to think of the kind of person he would be if he hadn't learned a lesson in humility for all the good it did, though the man had gone from trying to control them to creating contingency plans to defeat them in case they went rogue. Only Superman still fully trusted the man. After that got exposed, Batman, seeing that everyone saved for Naruto and Wonder Woman had gone quiet, decided to ignore the two and read. The screen reappeared as he opened the book. Chapter 3, Meeting the Justice League. The what? Naruto laughed. What are they? The true enforcers of justice. Talk about a messiah complex. Kakashi scoffed, tucking his book away. The name didn't give him high hopes for this chapter. Wonder Woman frowned. While she didn't like their reaction, she had to admit that the name sounded like something an egotist or someone with a savvy or complex would think up. Maybe she should have protested against it more when they were still debating on what to name their group. I told you guys Super Friends was a better name, Flash muttered. I get the feeling it wouldn't inspire respect either. Green Arrow replied, it's better than them thinking. One of benevolent gods. A blonde girl in her mid-teens was lying on her back on a bed with several wires connecting her to various medical machines. I thought Naruto healed her already. Superman looked worried. That man looked like he got pinched in the side. He hoped his other self wouldn't have to suffer what he did. 4 million was already a hefty amount to lose without adding in the cost of equipment replacement along with the amount of other miscellaneous stuff he'd have to buy to cover up his main purchase. He may have healed her, but she's been frozen for years. Her organs would have to resume work properly, and when they do she'll wake up naturally soon. A day spoke. The machines are probably just to keep her from malnourishment in the period she's asleep for and kept track of her vitals. Superman nodded but wasn't comforted by the woman's words. The strange assortment of people was gathered round her bed looking at her curiously. Superman in his red and blue costume, a green-skinned humanoid wearing a blue cape, another man in a bath-themed suit, a scantily clad athletic woman, a masked woman with angel-like wings, a green lantern wearing his coarse traditional uniform, and lastly the man in a red suit and mask with a lightning motif on his chest. Wait. Naruto looked at Wonder Woman, then Superman, then Flash, and lastly Martian Manhunter. You're the Justice League? Surprise. Flash chuckled weakly. So that's what the costumes are for? Kakashi smirked. You mustn't be the official enforcers of justice. So you hide your identities to escape identification by the actual ones? Well, Superman scratched his head. The man wasn't exactly wrong, but they also hid their identities for utilitarian purposes. We also do it so whatever problems we attract would remain ours alone and not involve our associates. So You do run around saving people and all that. Naruto blinked. Yeah, but you get paid. We do it because it's the right thing, not for reward. Burrito nodded slowly. It explained why Superman in the book was so against paying him for his services. He was used to being around people who simply did good for the sake of it. They were all good people, not very smart, but good people. That's nice. Soon the day started, but that's probably because you've all got something you're doing on the side. If you only had this hero life of yours, I doubt you'd be alright with just taking a thank you. I imagine it's a very time-consuming lifestyle, Kakashi pointed out, and since you still need to hide your identities, that means you have normal lives. How do you balance both? Flash looked deep in thought. It only just occurred to him that almost every member of the league was not only financially stable but either had jobs that didn't require their constant presence or were their own bosses. Superman worked shifts, meaning he could go hours to days without being needed. Batman and Green Arrow were CEOs. Wonder Woman was an ambassador. Martian Manhunter had no normal life. Black Canary was a lawyer. He was in forensics. Meaning he only really had to work when there was a case, and Green Lantern was presumed dead on Earth, meaning he had no normal life either, but one of the ones that weren't in their shoes, the ones who unlike them had to work to make ends meet and still had to go out and risk their lives for indefinite odds of time, the ones who had to juggle two equally demanding lives, unable to fully dedicate to either. In the end you have to choose one. Batman spoke. The point at which the choice has to be made arrives later for some than others, but it's inevitable. He made his own choice long ago. Bruce Wayne was not but a disguise now, and the ones who can't afford to choose, or rather can't afford to choose the path of the vigilante. Takashi asked. Batman knew the others wouldn't like his answer, so he didn't respond. Takashi stared at the man expressionlessly before turning his gaze away at the sight of Naruto. Shaking his head. What's with those gaudy costumes? Void and so cringe. I'm getting goosebumps, Naruto muttered and raised the sleeve of his right arm to show the fox on his shoulder, proof of his words. Flash looked offended. Sorry, we didn't consider aesthetics when creating practical suits to fit our respective abilities. If you weren't considering aesthetics, you'd have simply created customizable uniforms, Kakashi pointed out. All of you are dressed uniquely, some of you even have insignias. You're all dressed differently too. I am wearing a uniform. Gar is not from the same place as me and he's of IGHER ranking. Lady Tuna Day is retired and Naruto hasn't reached the rank where he'd be given the uniform. You are in the lower ranks, Wonder Woman asked Naruto, who sighed. That doesn't really matter considering I could wipe the floor with pretty much everyone higher than me, he said in a friendly fight. Of course, and I save. Green Lantern smirked. It's understandable, Wonder Woman said. It took me many centuries before I could rise to where I currently am, mostly because my mother insisted on me not being ready. Naruto nodded and froze when something she'd said finally registered. Centuries, do you be snick? When he saw Naruto's hair standing on his forearm and his skin looking like that of a chicken. While Naruto and QB were talking among themselves in their native language, the green-skinned man spoke. Their vitals are stable. The condition of her body is remarkably good. She's brimming with vitality. If you did not tell me that she had been in cryo-sleep for nearly 30 years, I would not believe it. Now we just have to wait for her to wake up naturally soon. Ade smirked. She loved it when she was right. You don't need to thank me, Naruto said complacently. I wouldn't mind a bonus to my paycheck. Though Superman sent Naruto a weary look. You're already extorting me out of 4 million. What more do you want from me? He wants everything you have, Wonder Woman replied seriously, and if you can't pay he'll take Car away. They can't do that, Superman said quickly. We'll stop him if he tries, meaning he can sue you for even more money. Black Canary grinned. Not only did you renege on your agreement with him, you took away someone he rescued, meaning you kidnapped her, and last but not the least, you assaulted him. I see nothing less than 20 million in compensation for those charges, coupled with jail time if unlucky. Burrito bit his cheek to keep from laughing at the man's expression. The other 7 people in the room all looked at him, their faces displaying various emotions. Some looked at him with curiosity, others with wariness, while others with a helpless look on their faces. I think the only one Helpless there is Batman soon the day folded her arms he's the one who will have to pay whatever amount Naruto is asking for Batman paused to glare at Superman and Naruto who pretended not to see him when the Almeration ship appeared on the Watchtower's radar and Superman contacted the Martian Manhunt. To give them access upon getting down from the ship. Nobody questioned Superman in regards to who the visitors of the side were because they could see the unconscious girl in his arms and the urgent expression on his face, but now that things settled down they naturally became curious, anticipating their questions. Superman said we should let the girl rest in silence, we'll discuss more in the conference room. Let me get this straight, you took the javelin without telling anyone anything, went off jazzing a crazy alien bounty hunter, got yourself captured and then ended up destroying the javelin in a brawl and came back with a debt of almost $4 million. Green Lantern, a middle-aged black man, shouted at the top of his lungs, his voice betraying his disbelief. Why is the Green Lantern here? Dark-skinned Naruto asked. I thought they were all just your alternate selves, but wait, I know that guy. Green Lantern racked his brain for a second. Oh yeah, he was one of the new set of recruits I saw before coming back to Earth. Do you think he just took your place in that universe and you're not a Lantern? Flash asked. For he's my replacement, I could have just been assigned to another sector. Green Lantern frowned at the man. If he didn't become a Lantern in that world it meant he was probably dead. Wait, you're going to leave Earth if you get assigned to another one, like forever? Flash looked sad at the thought. I wouldn't really have a choice, I'm only here because they assigned me to this actor. Green Lantern shrugged when he saw Flash's look. He quickly added, but even if I did I'll still make time to come visit, it just won't be often. Flash nodded. He didn't want Lantern to leave, he was the only who hung out with him in the Watchtower, even that Green Lanterns were the protectors of the universe. John Street Ewart was naturally aware of what a unit mass represented for aliens. One mass unit was equal to 1 kilogram to 2 pounds, converting 70 mass units of gold into US dollars. The final result was that Superman had a debt of over $4 million. Well, Green Arrow whistled. Over 4 million, yo. You really got yourself into some serious stuff. Superman looked sheepish. I got it taken care of. I hope you mean I got it taken care of. Batman looked annoyed. I'll pay you back. Batman, I own your workplace. You're literally going to be paying me with my own money. You bought his workplace. Naruto F. Roaned. I don't think you value money much if you use it on stuff like that. Wonder Woman nodded in agreement. She'd seen the man blow millions to either prove a point or help someone out. He's not like that. Superman jumped into his friend's defense. He uses his money for good reasons too. He even helped me clear the bank debt on my house. Really? How do you do that? By the bank. I can't believe it. Naruto shook his head. It's hypocritical of you, seeing as how you were willing to throw away 100,000 Rio on a bet. Kakashi pointed out. I'm collecting that. By the way, the planet wasn't called Argo. Yuto rolled his eyes. I'm very sure it was implied the chapter was titled Welcome to Argo. No, it wasn't, but it involved going to Argo and you went to a planet which happened to be where Superman's cousin was, and he said he also rescued his cousin from Argo. I can't be the only one seeing a connection. And I landed in a city. Naruto smirked and Superman said Argo is a city in Krypton. The Kashi sighed and fished out his wallet. Oh, I don't have 1,000 on me. Can you put it on my tab at your money up? Not your funny up. Green Arrow laughed at the man. Oliver, you have absolutely nothing on you now. Canary whispered into the archer's ear, silencing him. Holy moly, Flash gasped. Flash could understand how his other felt. There was something overwhelming about witnessing people talk about money that was more than you'd ever made in your entire life. Wonder Woman seemed not to be fully aware of just how huge that amount of money was. Although she had left the Paradise Island a bit more than 2 months ago, she had yet to truly interact with the society of the World of Men. Naruto grinned at the Amazon. It's what it's called. She huffed. I know, but World of Men, that sounds worse than it. Situally, as my sisters are not fond of men. Wonder Woman tried to play it down. They tried to kill us, Flash cried, and that was after we saved them from petrification. I didn't expect them to worship us, but a thank you would have been nice, because she imagined an island filled with only women that looked Like Wonder Woman and sidewaistfully Lord Jury would have gladly died to catch a glimpse of such a place. Batman was massaging both of his temples with his hands. If the caped crusader didn't have to hold the book, he was sure he'd be doing the same. In contrast, a certain Thanagarian woman could not help herself who she tried to mask it by coughing in her hand, but when she took a look at the mixture of awkwardness and shame on Superman's face, all her restraint disappeared. Ha ha ha, she laughed out loud, beating the conference table with her palm. Wonder Woman soon joined her in laughter, as did Naruto and Flash. Superman buried his head in his hands. I kind of wish Hawker was here now. Flash clutched his belly. The cash. She was just surprised there was a person with wings. She was hot, very much so, but he just couldn't bring himself to focus on anything other than her wings. See something you like, Hato? CK Tsunade gave the man a teasing smile. I can't be the only one surprised that she has wings. Takashi stared harder. Natural wings at that. Their whole race have wings, Green Lantern said. If you see if Agnarian without wings, chances are they're lying to you or they got cut off. That sounds painful. Yuto winced. I'm sure it is. Gara agreed with him. Hot girl, this is no laughing matter, Green Lantern barked. Tsunade raised an unimpressed eyebrow with the man on the screen. She's your teammate, not some brat to yell at. Lantern. Naruto shook his head. I'd probably laugh more just to spite him. It's not me. Green Lantern sighed, but yeah, Stewart was out of line with that. Knowing Hot Girl's infamous temper, he'd be lucky if she didn't tear him down verbally, but Green Lantern's outrage only made her laugh harder. Sutu or similar, Kakashi noted. He could tell the woman was angry, but she was only laughing. Day. Height. The man now dude over 4 million. This is plain robbery, Flash said while looking at Naruto wide-eyed. Is it now? Is the life of the last Kryptonian and the last Argonian not worth that much? Because she chortled. The last Argonian pay up. Naruto Verito's side. Allow me to enlighten you about other OTC ohms. Had I captured the two of them and sold them to the Shans, I reckon I'd have enough money to even buy a terraformed moon in the Vegas system. A whole moon? You can buy moons in your world? Naruto blinked. Some terraformed moons have resorts or homes built on them, Green Lantern said, looking sour, but they cost more money than the net worth of some planets, and I'd get that much if I just sold them to the Sones. Don't say that like you regret saving me and my cousin, Superman cried frantically. I don't, but damn, that's billions, maybe even trillions, and I had to haggle 4 million with you other me shoal. D have charged 100 or 200 million if it's too late for that now. Superman looks smug. Take your 4 million and go, robber. That's how valuable the last survivors of these two races are. I'm actually suffering a huge loss by giving them away to you basically for free. I'm not sure how comfortable I feel to. No, he's just talking about giving me away like I'm a gift. That's business. Batman shrugged. You can't do business from a moral or humanitarian standpoint. True that. Green Arrow nodded. It was part of why he gave the business to a relative and simply collected his shares of the profits. He didn't have the heart to focus on profits alone rather than consider people. He couldn't even fire people without feeling like a piece of __. The chill went down everyone's spine at those words. Superman himself appeared to be very perturbed, but even more unsettled by the revelation was Green Lantern. If you old sell two innocent people to those monsters, John Stewart shouted. Do you know who those guys are? Flash asked. They're race of maniacs from Vegas system, a planetary system outside of the 3,600 sectors of the universe protected by the Green Lantern Corps. They have a hobby of dissecting and experimenting on people, trying to create new races and creatures. One of the worst tumors the world has ever seen, Green Lantern said with a dark expression on his face. Everyone who didn't know about the Sones looked revolted. Some of the superheroes sent the mute Naruto suspicious looks. Had they been wrong out his character? Superman shuddered. And Naruto would have sold him to those people and made him live his life out on an operating table. He'd rather kill himself than go through that. If the other me is anything like I am, he wouldn't give you two to them no matter how much money they offered him. Naruto sounded troubled. It just wouldn't be worth the guilt that would follow. I can't condemn a person to the just for money. The Kuzu had been a lesson to him about what the love of money could do to a person. The man had dedicated his whole life to it. All his decisions were guided by money, from deciding who he fought to joining the Akatsuki. The man had met his end because his greed made him come back to assume his grave for his head just like they predicted he would. Wonder Woman patted him on the shoulder comfortingly. I haven't known you for long, but I believe at the very least that you're not that kind of person. You're better than that. Thanks. He gave the woman a small smile. It hurt him a bit to know that he'd never meet someone like her. After this was over and they parted ways, he had to find a way to go to their world. He wouldn't be able to live happily if he failed to. Naruto made a pow. Say of course that I wouldn't sell people as if they were livestock. Luckily for the big guy and that little girl, I do have some morals too, you know. Naruto let out a relieved breath. His other self was just threatening them, but if you try to double-cross me, none of the people in the conference room was deaf to the undisguised threat in his words. That's enough, you will have your gold in 24 hours. Batman, who had been silent until then, spoke. By 24 hours, Takashi asked. Gold isn't something you can take from the bank without getting questioned. I'd have to file a special request for it and pay extra to Ma. Sure, it actually gets approved on the same day, Batman explained. After that I'd need to arrange for its delivery to an inconspicuous location, after which I'll have it conveyed to where Naruto pick it up. He's lucky it's only going to take a day. Burrito smiled at the man doing that much work to get Superman out of trouble. You're actually a really good guy inside, aren't you? That man didn't answer him. He knew deep in his core he wasn't a good person. What about fuel for my ship? You can refuel here at the watchtower. Aren't you worried about a fire? Takashi asked them. What if something ignites? All hat fuel. The fueling area is at the outermost part of the watchtower, Superman said. In case of the fire, we'd open the door. What's opening a door going to do? Space is a vacuum. It had drained the area of air, causing the fire to die out. It helps us conserve resources and reduces the risk of the fire spree. Ding rapidly. Oh, and I thought that Flash was a glutton, Hawker muttered while looking at the nine-tailed fox cub that was sitting on the table in the kitchen of the watchtower gorging himself with food. Half of their food supply had already disappeared into the tiny being's seemingly bottomless stomach. I'm not a glutton, Flash huffed. Being a speedster doesn't just mean I run fast, it also speeds up my metabolism. My metabolism is too fast compared to normal people, so I need a lot of calories to sustain it. But I'm curious what this little fox special power is, Flash said and raised his hand in an atom. PT to pet the fox. Don't do that, Naruto warned the man, but Flash cried out startled when one of the nine tails of QB suddenly enlarged and slapped his hand away. Whoa, Flash jumped. That had to hurt. You're lucky he didn't try to bite your hand off. Naruto said he doesn't like being played with. Wonder Woman and asked because she chuckled. Naruto was the only one who tried to play with the mountain-sized creature rather than take off in the opposite direction. He'd probably be cool with you, Naruto told her, so long as you stroke his ego and don't treat him like a pet. I'll keep that in mind. Hey, that's not FA. Can Wonder Woman touch it? And I can't, Flash complained. Wonder Woman looked happy at finally being able to hold Kurama. See, I told you he'd like you, Naruto said. Flash grumbled. Wonder Woman was currently playing with one of QB's fluffy tails, showing a gentle expression that made a stark contrast with her normally stoic attitude as a warrior. Princess Hawker also tried to touch QB after Flash, but her hand was slapped away too. Now she was sulking at his side. In fact, Wonder Woman was the only one QB allowed to get close to him. Okay, it's kind of weird now, Naruto rubbed his chin. You treat him like a pet and he just lets you, but the others did not think about, and what QB did not know either was that as someone carrying the name of the goddess of the hunt, wilderness and wild animals, Wonder Woman had been blessed with an increased degree of affinity with wild animals and nature in general. Okay, that's neat, Naruto whistled. He only got an affinity for animals after learning Senjutsu because they could sense the residue of nature energy on him, but it sounded like she had it to a greater degree. The lion whisper, Flash said in a high pitch, causing Green Arrow to laugh. The QBE, her presence did not feel threatening, and he could also sense her emotions, or better said, the lack of her negative feelings. In addition, having the fur on his tails caressed so gently was a wonderful feeling too, something that Naruto never did. You should take care of Kurama's fur more, Naruto. Diana guided him. A Kree Toure like him deserves to be groomed to the best of your ability. Burrito rolled his eyes. The 90-year might have mellowed Kurama out, but the tailed beast hated having his tails touched. The last time he tried it, Kurama booted him out of the seal and refused to talk to him for weeks. He doesn't like you. Plus it's common sense, you don't normally touch animals when they eat, Naruto said without looking up from the tablet in his hands. Who are you calling an animal, you stupid pig? Cube suddenly growled and Flash Hawker Land. Wonder Woman backed away from the table, startled that it'd be a shock. Of course Wonder Woman blinked when everyone looked surprised about her being surprised. Animals typically don't speak. Don't call Kurama an animal to his face either, Naruto advised. It talks, they unknowingly cried out at the same time. However, QB did not seem to care enough to press the issue. He was currently why with chewing on an entire chicken straight out of the freezer with food in front of his